Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your friend Isaac. Today, I get to interview Mark Eaton, DJ Mark Eaton from the Plywood Hoods, Joe Kid on the Stingray, Dorkin in York. You know him from all of these things from our history. You're going to hear all about the early, lots of detail about the early days of Mark's riding career with Kevin Jones, with Mike Daly, with Brett Downs, hearing all about the contest, the early days. One of the most fascinating things that I learned about this was just listening to the stories that happened in between each issue of the magazine, right? Because there would be like a 2 month delay. So what happened after this contest in real life? You know, you'll hear all about how the boys got home from contests, how they were stoked, how they were going to take it to the next level. It's fascinating stuff. It's a huge, huge insight into one of the chapter changing moments in flatland freestyle. When the boys from York hit the scene, man, it literally just propelled Flatland in a completely accelerated pace, is the only way I could say it. It's that they are responsible for so much of what was going on. The correlation between York and then what was going on, what I saw in NorCal with Aaron Dole and the scuffing movement, it was just the perfect time for just the turning of the page for Flatland freestyle. So you'll hear all about that. You'll hear all about behind the scenes on how did he get Joe Kidd on a Stingray made before social media, when you could look people up on social media. It's a fascinating story. And then you're going to hear all about the documentary he's planning, the Back for More 24. It's the reunion of the Haro team in 2024 with the same team that toured in 1984. It's going to be a sick time. You can find out more on bfm24.com if you want to learn more about that tour. What's up, everybody? It's your friend Isaac. Welcome back to Big Bike BMX. Today, I am super stoked because finally I get to chit chat with DJ Mark Eaton, you guys. This is super exciting for me because you know him as Lung Mustard if you are a Flatland freestyler. If you're in the music scene, you know him as DJ Mark Eaton. If you are just a documentary fan and you've watched Joe Kid on a Stingray, he is Mark Eaton, the guy that did that. So basically, we have one of our huge storytellers and documentarians of our sport, our scene, and also a pioneer with when you look at the Plywood Hoods. Mark Eaton, bro, thanks for coming, man. Appreciate you being here.
Appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. Let's go. Let's chit chat.
All right, dude. Let's jump in. I gotta tell you, so going back in my history, just going mentally back into time. I grew up in NorCal. There was like the Golden Gate Park scene. We had, you know, Aaron Dole, and we had our Carl Ross and stuff like that. They were up there, doing
What
progressive.
time frame? What time period? What time period?
This would have been like 86, 87 is probably when I'm thinking like that's when we grew up. And like I'm looking at my friend scene. We all grew up enough to where we had to have, like, I would have been like 14, 15, and then the older kids would have just had their license so they could drive us to the park. So it's that age range there, and I'm saying it's like 86, 87, 88. That like the ozone type of when the ozone frames were out, kind of that era. Um everyone was just following sequences in magazines like that. There wasn't a whole lot out there. And there was the way I remember it, right? Videos at the time, and you can probably speak to this a little bit. Any of the videos that we had for freestyle that were not sequenced in a magazine were produced by what I call like a wedding crew, or like the GT would call up like John's mobile videography service that normally does commercials for car dealerships. And then that's who was doing our freestyle stuff. So then you had like dudes in full factory leathers, with like a weird crane following them, doing like surfers on the beach. And you're just like, that's not the way it really looks though, normally every day in Lodi, Stockton, California. That's not the way we rode. But the stoke was there because you actually got to see, oh, that's what a boomerang looks like. Like before, you would see a boomerang and you just see a picture, like 6 pictures, and you didn't know if it was a flail, what it looked like. So video was huge for us in freestyle. What was it like for you at the time, and what inspired you to go on and like do your own thing?
Well, let's just say, let me just sort of set things up. So in York, Pennsylvania, in the early '80s, we had a pretty big BMX scene. Pretty big for a small town. Probably I mean, literally, probably 100 riders, maybe. There was a lot of people. A
Wow.
lot of guys had bikes. There were a lot of There were a lot of like pockets of riders. You know, like keep in mind, everybody had a BMX bike in the '80s. Every kid, and so you know, you'd go to there would be different dirt jump, different trail setups, and each place would have like a group of like 6 or 7 people at that spot. You know, and you'd go around and and then we also had a skate park called Thunderdome, and that was from the '70s, and it was one of those more mellow asphalt snake run type of bowl and stuff like it had like quarter pipe extensions on it, but that was a short lived thing because skateboarding kind of died in the late '70s, and honestly, I think I think that park opened in like '76 and it closed in like before '80. I think by
Oh,
'80 it
wow.
was closed. So, but there was a fence and people would just jump the fence and break, they would just cut a hole in the fence, whatever. We would go and ride. But
80s kids were
I was,
resourceful.
yeah, I was still young though. So it was a little bit of it was also in kind of like a seedy part of town. So you always had to go with a crew of people because if you went by yourself, you'd kind of get your bike stolen because you're a kid, you're like a little 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid or whatever, and you got a decent bike, it's going to get taken. So you always went with, you had to go with a group of people, and and I was uh, there in different spots riding with my friends. And keep in mind, we're like neighborhoods of friends, I mean, so there's just all these neighborhoods. And I saw a group of guys I'd never seen before, and I was like, they all had really cool bikes that I was like, whoa, where'd they get these? Like these are, I don't know who these guys are. And it was Kevin Jones, and like his crew, and I think I'd even heard Kevin's name around. Like, have you heard this guy Kevin Jones or whatever? And Kevin was there with them, and just I don't know, he was like a standout guy. Like he was just you could just tell he could jump higher, better, or whatever. And then I saw him. That was like the first time I saw him at this one jumps, and then we were at the skate park one time. I was at the skate park one time by myself. I might have been by myself. Might have been with somebody else. It was like in the morning, and him and Kevin was there with another guy, and they were filming with a Super 8 camera, so filming,
That's wild.
skate park. And
Yeah.
I was like, and I knew what Super 8 was because my grandfather had a Super 8 camera. I was very familiar with a Super 8 camera because I grew up with my grandfather having one and filming all like just the standard documenting stuff. So I was like, oh, that's cool, man. That's cool that they're filming themselves riding because it was not like it wasn't just a normal thing. It was like he had to borrow his camera. Where the parents had to let him borrow the camera, and
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin, they must have been, they probably would have been 14 that time, about
Hmm.
14 years old, 13, 14, and and yeah, Kevin and his crew would film each other. They would film a lot of stuff, just a lot of random stuff. So when you see a lot of the Dorkin video footage that has that old Super 8 that's just random weird stuff, a lot of that's Kevin's old, like 81, 82, 83 footage. And we had access to a Super 8 camera from early on. Um, and I think, I forget really how it happened, but uh, we just started hanging out. Kevin, like my crew and Kevin's crew kind of started hanging out together and riding. But realistically, I kind of just was more drawn to like being involved in what they were doing. So we would just ride together as much as we could. And you know, this involves going to like the first BMX action freestyle show in Rockville, in
Hmm.
probably in not the first, but our first show was in '83, within summer of '83. And that was kind of mind blowing seeing like RL and Buff do like actual freestyle tricks, but the crazy part was Kevin was probably just as good as Buff and RL at that time. He could certainly do a lot of front wheel hops. He could do roll. We could do a lot of we could do some of the tricks, but Kevin really was on. He could roll back, and we were doing rock walks and 360 like bunny 360. Like, we called them 360 rollouts, where it'd be like a 3/4 turn, and you pivot on the back wheel like that last quarter.
Yeah.
And we could 360. This is like 83. We were doing 360s out of the bowl. We were doing, decent tabletops, decent leeries, look backs.
Yeah.
One-hander, 1-footers and stuff. Kevin had the ability to bunny. He had good bunny hop skills. So I was still real little and scrawny, and I couldn't really pop like much. But Kevin could like bunny hop a seat. Like you could have a bike setting up, and you just bunny hop a seat. And I'm kind of going down the rabbit hole, but I'm setting the
Dude,
scene
I
for
love this though,
what we
because
were.
I love this because this is like you discussing this, dude, is so it's just parallels what I remember.
Mhm.
Like you would just leave. There wasn't social media, so you would leave your house, go to a spot, hope to find some friends. You know what I mean? Because you couldn't call your
Go
friend's
to the
house
next
that
spot,
early.
and if no one was there, you go to the next spot, go to the next spot, and then
Exactly.
you just
This
keep,
makes so much sense, dude. You found
yeah,
somebody on a bike, it was like your instant best friend for the summer,
yeah,
Absolutely. Keep
yeah.
going. Keep going. This is great.
So, so yeah, we were then eventually. So I went into high school, and I was in the same high school with Kevin. He was 2 years older than me, so I was a freshman, and so now we went to school together, and so we were always kind of riding. We were like meeting up, and hey, let's go, have lunch, and just just all the things after school, and go ride, and our riding was basically street riding, because like Friday night, for example, on Friday night he'd come down to my house, and I lived close to like a bunch of shopping centers and malls and stuff, and so we would just a Friday night we would just go ride all around, and what that entailed was just bunny hopping over stuff, jumping, like it's all what we would call street riding,
Yep.
because it's just like taking the obstacles of whatever's there, parking lot or whatever, and just doing stuff with it. But this is literally September or fall of '83. Okay, so
Dude.
we're just doing. We were like, riding all the nonstop, just riding, getting good too, because we were all pushing each other for the time, for the time being.
Sure.
And then I think sometime around, well, you're still into it, and sometime around the beginning of '84 into spring of '84, we started seeing breakdancing. We started seeing it kind of happening, seeing it popping up in different things. And we were just like, I guess it just intrigued us, since like I don't know, we were just into creative stuff, and it seemed really cool. And and keep in mind, York, PA is just its own little small town, and it was 1 hour north of Baltimore, Maryland, and 2 hours west of Philadelphia. So we don't really have a major city that's right there. We're kind of like isolated,
Sure.
but you'd have a little bit of influence from things like that. And obviously in Baltimore and in Philly, there was more of an urban scene, and there was more stuff going on. But we just started digging into breakdancing at in '84, and so and we just kept kind of trying to consume as much, like, I don't even know how we would, maybe if it was stuff on TV, a news thing or something. I don't None of us had a VCR. I don't think Kevin had a VCR yet. He didn't. He did have one later, but at the time, VCRs weren't a common thing in '84,
No.
so keep that in mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so like, in order to see stuff, it was really hard to kind of, we'd have to go to the movies. We'd have to go to see Breakin' and
Right.
Footloose, and whatever, anything that had an inkling of breakdancing. Like, even shoot, what was the first movie that really kind of showed breakdance? It was the girl that's set in Pittsburgh. It's the dancer.
Flashdance?
Flashdance.
Yeah.
Flashdance was. Yeah, they
Yeah.
had like crazy legs. They had like a little scene of them like the breakdance, and we were like, oh, we saw that, and we
Yeah.
yeah, we uh you know what's really funny now? I just remember this. Kevin used to film stuff off the TV with the Super 8 camera because
Yeah.
we could watch it on the projector. There
Right.
was many times where he was like filming the TV screen with the Super 8.
That's
That's pretty
brilliant.
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, I remember that era. Like I remember you would see like the rock, like a couple people from Rocksteady crew might make it to like the
Mhm.
Tonight Show or something, and they're like, "There's this new thing, breakdancing," and then
Yeah.
they have the Rocksteady crew come out, and you're like,
Yeah.
that was your stoke for
Yeah.
like a month. Yeah,
So we got pretty heavily into it, and this is now like the beginning of summer of '84. And oddly enough, Freestyle magazine had just kind of came out right then, and it was BMX Action introduced Freestyle magazine, and there was even like some breaking in that, and so it was really going along with what we were doing, and but we had like, oddly, we had already been into riding for a few years, and at that point, we kind of felt like we were kind of been there, done that at that moment.
sure.
And we were pretty just stoked on breaking, and so we like literally barely were riding, and we would always be practicing. We'd be at Kevin's house or whatever, like we'd be practicing breaking, and what we do, we had a we had a like a carpet for like a padding, and then we put like a piece of like the linoleum roll, like
Yeah,
a 6x9 thing, and then we'd put pledge on it and make it real like nice and slippery, and we would just practice all like the same amount of energy and same amount of passion that went into riding was now going into breaking. So we set up a goal, like our little crew of friends were like, all right, we're gonna make this group called the Cardboard Lords, and in order to be on the team, we have to be able to do 3 windmills by June 30th. Ironically, today is June 30th.
it's June 30th.
Okay,
Yeah,
so this is crazy. This is 40 years ago. We're talking about this 40 years ago. June 30th, 1984. There was a deadline to meet, and you had to have 3 windmills by June 30th, 84. And whoever could do 3 windmills by today
yeah.
was a part of the Cardboard Lords. And we all did it. We all got it. We all made it. We made ourselves like I can do it, and they could do it. And like it was like 4 or 5 of us at least, maybe 6. And there was like dances happening at like different. There was like a place called Showbiz Pizza, and it's basically like a Chuck E. Cheese. It's basically a Chuck E. Cheese, but
Sure.
they would take their dining room on Friday nights, and they would clear out the tables, and they would make a dance, like, and they would charge like a $3 cover or whatever. It was like a team dance every Friday night, and that's where everything went down. That's where all the breaking went down.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
And they also had contests. They'd have breakdance contests, and you'd sign up. Yeah, what's your group? You sign up, and all right, we're gonna battle. And so I mean, we were like really into that for, I mean, gosh, like the whole summer. The whole summer was we were into that, and not really into riding. Not like it was riding was we had our bikes. We rode everywhere to get to our work, so
Transportation.
we weren't
Right.
driving.
Right.
But we were kind of like, yeah, we'll jump stuff here and there, but it wasn't the same. It just wasn't the same. And then school year happened. We were heavy into it, and then literally, like, it was kind of all we did. It was all we thought about. It was all we worked on, and we just got to the point where we were like just pretty good at it. And fast forward to like into 85, you know, we were winning everything. We were winning every contest we'd go to. We'd go battle somebody. We, you know, with between Kevin and my skills, and like everybody kind of had their own strengths. So,
Sure.
you know, that's how a breaking crew battles. Like, oh, send him out. You know, he's going to go. Okay.
Right.
So, you know, we, yeah, we were cruising along on the breaking thing, fully into it. And at that point too, I discovered DJing because of the hip hop culture and just everything. Like I got a Techniques turntable. I figured out a mixer, something, you know, like I figured out how to make it like a mixtape, and how to mix a little bit and how to scratch a little bit. And you know, it's all just part of what we're doing. And then like, so this is like a pivotal moment. Um, Probably around like March of 85, kind of towards the end of our breaking kind of era. We bumped into Mike Daly and Brett Downs, Mike Daly, maybe some another, like their crew. So like, because they were in that, like a different area. When I say a different area, I'm talking like 5 miles away. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like our different areas for these guys are from 4 miles over here. These guys are from like 3 miles. You know, but
Could have
it's
been another
still like
state for sure. Yeah.
it felt like, oh, we don't ever see those guys
Different high
because they're
school. Yeah. Different high school,
yeah,
different
they're
friend
different
groups.
high
Yeah.
school and all that.
That's the way it was.
And we knew, and Mike, and the irony was, uh we knew Mike and we knew Brett prior to the break, or during the breaking part. I knew Mike even before that. We knew them from the writing, from just being in the different scenes. And I think the Plywood Hoods name came from the Cardboard Lords. I'm almost positive. Like Mike kind of adopted it, or like, you know, like that spin-off, rhyme, that word
It makes
play
sense. The
rhyme.
word play on it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, yeah, it was around the same time. So, um, um, but you know, we weren't, Kevin and I, and it was like a bunch of like our crew wasn't really into. We just weren't focused on riding anymore. It was just not even a thing. And uh, but Mike and Brett, we saw them at one night at a shopping center, and I I kind of feel like we didn't have our bikes and they did, or something. Maybe it was something like that. Anyway, they had pegs, they had they had a pegs, they had a rotor, they had a POTS mod, they had all that new stuff that we had seen in the magazines. And when we saw those things initially, like in the magazines, I know when I first saw it, I thought it was real gimmicky. What are we going to do with that? Like it wasn't jumping out at me like, oh wow, this opens up all these opportunities. It didn't when seeing it in the magazine. Now, when we saw it in person, and Mike was actually able to do some tricks, that was a different story, because it was like, oh wait, there's some cool stuff here. So like Kevin obviously was instantly like, whoa, let me look into this. And he got a Hutch Trickstar. Like he got a really nice pink Hutch Trickstar, or lavender Hutch Trickstar, like pretty decked out,
Yeah.
all set up, all the cool parts, everything. And immediately he was immediately learning stuff. Like, and we were like, what? And I was kind of mad, because I was like, I don't want to do this again. I'm gonna go
Right.
back to riding. But like, let's do this. Let's, you know, it seemed weird to go back to riding. It did
Yeah.
at that time. It just seemed weird. And
Breakdancing's going to be
so
here forever, Kevin. Look at this. How can this ever go away?
we already did that. We already did
Yeah.
riding. I mean, what else are we gonna do? What else are we gonna
Right.
do? Like there's nothing else left to do that. You know, like, that was literally our mindset, my
Right.
mindset.
Dude, I was right there with you, because it seemed like there were spurts where you would be like, if you look at Flatland, there was like the hopping era and like the
Mhm.
hopping rollback era, right? And then there was like I consider it like the coaster break era. right? Where you were like,
Yeah.
it was kick turns, coaster breaks, that Mike Buff kind of a thing. Then pegs came out and there was like new places to hop, and then the Dave Norrie balancy stuff, even before like
Mhm.
rotor, spin masters, any of that. So
Yeah.
I think your story makes so much sense because it was you like I'm not a creative freestyler. I am a copy freestyler. Like I see a trick and I'm like, oh, I want to learn that. Like that's similar to
Yeah.
this other trick that I like because like I mean we're it was like where you grew up. Like you had Kevin, you guys were just pushing so far ahead. Every time you think like I just made up a trick, either A, it was so stupid that you were like, I'm not doing this in front of a jam circle anywhere, even though I think I made this up, or you'll do
Uh,
it and someone's like, oh yeah, someone was doing that in Des Moines 8 years ago,
mhm.
so there was nothing.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
new you would see something new, like hopping turned into like balance, and balance turned into this, and then like the scuffing and all of that. So yeah, dude, it
Yeah.
seems like there was different chapters that would just drive you to keep going. You would just get to that point where you're like, I'm burned out, I'm done. I
Yeah.
can't do another boomerang differently. And so then there was something. So yeah, keep going, dude. This is fascinating.
Um, so yeah, so Kevin dove in. He was in it and he was showing me tricks. And I was like, he's learning them quick too, like cherry picker and boomerang and fork whips where you're hopping and the bike's whipping
Yep.
around while you're hopping.
Yeah.
And just all these things. I was like, damn, this is like, he's learning this quick. I mean, we're talking like a month. We're talking like the month of May,
Yeah.
like, and and I'm and I'm just so reluctant. I'm like, oh man. And so I think what happened was I whatever I got myself. I bought a friend. So a lot. I'm 16 now. That part. Friends of mine were selling their bikes, getting cars and stuff. So I bought a friend's Race Incorporated, like Race Incorporated, Race Inc. And it was a complete bike, and I got it for really cheap, for a good deal. And I was like, all right, this is going to be my bike that I'm going to ride and you know freestyle on. I got pegs for it, and but at the same time, so it's funny because I got pegs on it, but we were when we were riding, Kevin and I were still like riding quarter pipes and riding skate park and riding like we weren't just like, okay, now we're going to do flatland. We just got back into riding, and flatland was just still this new little shiny object. But since we're now a year or so after, like a year or so advanced, a lot of other things were advanced, like the amount of air and quarter pipe stuff and that. So we were really into quarter pipe riding. We were into riding ramps, and then there was a period. So like June, I these things are very vivid. My memory of these things are like right there. So like June of '85, um, Kevin and I would go around to like every quarter pipe in the area in our York area, like every quarter pipe, and we said, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get 5 foot of air on every ramp. Like that's our thing. So we go here, 5 foot, here, like we have to get 5 feet air at this. And we did. We went to like I remember we went around to all these different ramps. We're like half pipe, quarter pipe, whatever it was, 5 feet air. So like we felt really good about quarter pipe riding. Felt like real dialed, so to speak. and and then um I was in Ocean City, Maryland, which is like a resort area. It's like a vacation spot for in the summer for the East, like my area.
Sure.
There's a whole scene there. And I was down there. I had my bike, and um, I went to check out the skate park. There's a skate park there that was there forever. Except now they stopped letting bikes ride, and I was like, ah, bummer. It was like 80, because I had been there in 83, 80. I'd been there even earlier 80s, but I'd definitely ridden there in 82, 3, and 4 for sure. And then so this year, I rode down there to the park. It wasn't open. So on my way back, I bunny hop over. So like I'm just getting up onto a curb, and literally like I underestimated. I caught it with my front wheel and
Oh,
flipped over and broke my left arm. And I was like, like snapped it. I was like, oh shit, and like all messed up. That took me out for the summer. Took me out from, and that was like right as things were like kind of felt like things were charging at the point. Like things were. So I was kind of taken out, and couldn't really do much, but I could skate because I was we also skated. We also rode skateboards, and we could skate and vert, and we because of the skate park we
Sure.
would skate too, and we were into skating, but to a lot. So anyway, like after about 3 weeks of my cast on and feeling comfortable, I just was skating every day because that's what I didn't have anything else to do. So I went skating. I would go to the skate park every day and skate, and I got good at that because that's all I was doing. And and then shoot, like um to kind of round it off, basically we just kept going. We just kept pushing, and um it was clear that obviously Kevin was like the most advanced, and a lot of the riders in the area kind of fell off, meaning they just got out of it. They just got it, got cars, got whatever, just decided to
Life
quit
happened.
riding.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So like we had the, the the pool of people that were still involved was pretty small. And keep in mind, oh, that's right. Okay. The reason I was saying all this about that 85 part is that we basically had to try out for the Plywood Hoods. So Kevin did, I did, Dale Mitchell did. A couple, like we had to like try out. We had to prove ourselves. Hey, can we
I love that,
can
dude.
we be on the Plywood Hoods? And because it was Brett, it was Daly, it was a guy named Brian Peters who was a quarter pipe rider. Those were the three primaries, and then like there was like two other guys that um, uh, Mike and Jeff Waters. They were brothers and Mike's neighbors. Um, but they kind of fell off. So really, realistically, like what happened was people just kind of were fading away, and the ones who were still in it were in it, and we were just like charging away at it. And then we'd do shows like at a fair, at a some kind of like festival day, or like a parade or something. We would do these different shows.
That was
And
so 80s, dude. I remember, I think every crew in every city did their local parade and their local whatever grape festival.
yeah, like whatever, like the day of the city, the town day or whatever,
Yes.
they have like a thing. Yeah.
The almond
So
festival. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, whatever it was, yeah, we do those. And then there were contests popping up. There were contests happening, AFA, and there was an NFA, which was that was a Baltimore thing, and that was kind of by Hutch. They started this. It was really just I think it might only have been one comp. NFA, Woody was there, RL was there, Dominguez. We got to see all those guys in person, and we got to compete and ride in that contest. Um, and Kevin and I both rode flat and quarter pipe. We both rode both. We entered both things.
That's wild.
Um, and yeah, we just kind of were always kind of the all around type of rider, just ride it all, and not try to, don't, not limit yourself, I guess. And I guess because we had a curiosity, just had to be like doing, couldn't just let something go. Couldn't just be like, oh wait, what's that bank over there? What's that bank to? I can't say bank to wall because that didn't exist. Bank to wall did not exist yet. It didn't exist till '87. But we did have a lot of banks, and we had a lot of like jumps, and
Yeah.
that's where that street stuff came in. And then
Did you guys
um
have like that curb? Like for us, dude, it was like kids would chase like the curb that got bumped up by a tree root, and then they just patched it, and you're like, dude, that's our jump for the
well, we
entire
didn't
season.
know about patching. That would have been, man, had we known what quickcrete was in the back in the 80s, oh my gosh. We
Right.
would have we would have made everything.
Yeah.
We would have just set every little thing up to be like I'm actually kind of surprised that we didn't, because like that's like right up Kevin and his crew's like alleyway, the tippy like quickcrete stuff. I'm really when the more I think back, I'm surprised we didn't do that, but
Yeah.
we didn't. Um, so you know, Mike Mike Daly was doing Agri-Rag then, and he was like really, he was aspiring to be a writer. He was aspiring to do some kind of journalism, right? And like that was his thing. And Kevin was I think Kevin was a senior in high school, and he was graduating. And then they were like, "Well, Kevin, what are you going to do, Kevin? What do what's Kevin going to do?" We were like, "I don't know." He didn't know, so he was going to like a local college, like a community college type thing. But he was smart. He was a smart dude, and right, and that plays into his ability to figure things out, his ability to understand physics, understand geometry, understand all these things, because he knew that,
Yeah.
and he understood how to make that work, and he did. He was able to figure it out. I always said, no matter what Kevin would have applied for, like whether it was basketball, golf, whatever it was, whatever he would have said, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. He was going to figure it out and do it better. He was just because he can just figure it out. That's really what it comes down to,
Do you
like
do you
mentally
think
figuring it out.
do you think like the cardboard lords and like studying like body movement and balance, do you think that helped you when you came like that progression? Do you think that was part of
Well,
like,
I can definitely say it forged our mindset of like of a battle and being creative and like being unique, not biting, not taking something else from other things. So like we were never really cool with all doing the same tricks, like going to an AFA contest and everybody's being judged on the best cherry picker or the best boomerangs or the best routine of the same 10 tricks. That
right,
always seemed really dumb to me. That seemed, we just were like, what we're going to have to, we have to, so not only do we have to learn the trick, we have to learn the trick better than the best people or that the inventor of the trick,
right,
like it's just dumb. So
right,
from the onset, we kind of were like, well, we're never going to stand out doing other people's tricks better. So why don't we just create our own? And
right.
that didn't seem weird to us. It didn't seem like, oh, it was like the only way. It was like we didn't have a choice. We had to do that.
Thank God
And
you did.
and and Mike was in contact with like Andy and Lou from from like Freestyle, because he was sending his stuff to them. So like we were like a blip. Plywood Hoods in York, PA were a blip on the Freestyle magazine radar, but just like a tiny little like you know. So because Staley would be sending them zines with what we're doing, and
Right.
I think they were just looking like, oh wait, these guys are doing stuff, and then it just comes down to like proving and proving it. You just got to keep proving that. And then like we went to, I think what happened was, oh okay, this is good, this is right. We went to the AFA had in late '86 had a contest in Long Island, a green floor, green like basketball like gym floor.
Yeah.
And Dennis McCoy had been injured the summer. Like I think he broke his leg or something, and he had been like out of the picture for a while, for a couple months. But because he was kind of healing an ankle, he was doing tricks, like he was doing all those like that frame stuff, like boomerang and stuff that wasn't hard on his, for whatever reason, like hard on his ankle or whatever. So anyway, Dennis came out with a vengeance. Dennis showed up at that that Long Island, just killing it, just riding so hard and fast, and just you're like completely wide. Like,
Right.
how did this happen? Like, how
Right.
is he so good? And it was kind of like a real wake up to us. We are like, wow, like this is what you got to do. You got to like ride hard. You got to just go all out,
Linking.
all
I
out.
think it was linking is really what I rem
Yes,
like.
the links. Yep, yep. It was linking tricks, like boomerangs, whips. Like it was just and trying to do things on one wheel, whip it to like another squeaker, things like that. Well, anyway, that kind of like was like a you know quick like slap in the face, like oh shoot, like wake up. So we just used that as like a big kind of like a fuel to like really push. And that's when I remember like really pushing. I remember just going, all right, I'm pushing. And and we were pushing. And we weren't pushing anything new. Kevin had a couple of things that were his. I didn't yet. Um and but we went to the velodrome. We went to California, the Velodrome 86, which was
Yeah.
around uh, Thanksgiving weekend. And we were just all amateurs. I entered novice. Dale entered intermediate. Kevin entered expert. Um, and we all did really well. I actually got first place in novice, but I mean it was a huge deal back home because it was like holy crap, he went to California and he got first place in California.
A big
It was a
deal.
novice,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a big deal. It was a big deal like from a perception way because then people were like, oh wait, these guys are doing something with their bike. They're doing something now with this, like
Yeah.
a little bit. So Kevin was doing that upside down cranking thing in
Yep.
the circle, like,
Yep.
and he got a photo. He got a photo doing a couple things, and that was a big deal. Like, oh, Kevin's in the magazine. He wasn't. He wasn't. Uh, he wasn't titled. His name wasn't titled. They're like, check out this guy doing this trick, whatever. So, we got a little taste of California. We got a little got introduced to a lot of the scene. People were like, "Oh, yeah, okay, these guys," and kind of like just a little introduction.
Did you get
And
to meet like Andy Liu and those guys at the Velodrome? Did you actually get to meet them there? And do you
I'm
remember?
trying to think how that was. I think we did. I think, but Mike wasn't with us on that trip, and Mike was really like our liaison. But
Right.
I think we probably went up to Andy and maybe Lou if Lou was there. I'm not sure if Lou was there yet. He might have been. Can't remember exactly. But um, but yeah, like we're like, hey, we're the Plywood Hoods and from York, and then they're like, oh yeah, whatever. But we were still nobody. We were complete
Sure.
nobody in the scene.
Sure.
Um, and uh, I had been so the one thing I was working on. So remember, I don't know if you remember, Ron Wilkerson used to start his run, like one of his routines, with the bike in almost like a steamroller position, but he had both hands on the handlebars, and he would run. He would run forward. He would run with the bike and jump on the peg and smoothie out, right?
Right.
Like there was a that was a it was and then we could do that smoothie
I know
from a
exactly. The
steamroller. Yeah,
front peg, the bike comes around the side, and you just keep going forward. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So he started his run out that way. Um, I used to hold the seat and push with my foot and steamroller, like
Right.
just coast that for that. So like I worked on that for a while. I could cruise that. I could like cruise that for a while. And and we were at the velodrome and like we're just like looking down at the practice area and I see Adam Jung whip whip the bike into a forward side glide for like a, not long, not like a rolling side ride. He whipped it, caught it, and rolled for about maybe 10 feet and then stopped. And we were like, oh, wait, forward side glide. That's crazy. But at the same time, I was like, ding. He just threw the bike to that point. I was like, I could throw the bike and catch the seat and go in and get into that
The
coast.
steamroller. Yeah.
So I was like,
Wild.
oh my gosh, that could totally work. And when I got home from that contest and started working on it right away, and working on it and working on it. And by, I don't know, mid January of '87, I was doing steamrollers, whipping it, and then like tapping a foot and then doing, and then just like getting it, learning it, and learning it, and then eventually um, doing it. But it was winter time,
Right.
and we couldn't ride. The riding was very limited. I had a basement that was big enough to practice in, but it was still only probably 20 feet wide by maybe 40, 50, like
Sure.
20, like so, and that's with poles and stairs, and like there was, it was empty, but there was a spot where I could whip and carve in a circle around the pole. Um,
Dude.
so my steamroller became a circular one, not
Right.
the cruising forward. And I learned it in a circle, and I could whip out, I could get out of it. And I had it pretty dialed, I had it down. And this is by like before the end of January. And I was telling Kevin on the phone, I was like, man, I got this thing. And he wasn't even trying it. He wasn't really even, it wasn't even in his, he just wasn't, because it was kind of my thing at the time. And I think he dabbled with it for a little bit, but didn't do it. And then I think I like, well, right after that, after I was doing that, I was like, why don't I just complete the whip? Because if I whip it, I could do a rolling tail whip, and it's called whiplash,
Right.
and just roll out the. So I started working on the opposite foot smoothie out, getting that comfortable so that I could just play around and just fudge it and
Right.
get there. And I worked on that for a while, for like, a couple of weeks, or maybe it wasn't even that long. Worked out pretty hard for, maybe it was a week, and then I was pulling whiplashes. And then that's when Kevin was like, "Oh shit, there's some things coming here. We have some, there was like potentially some things."
Had you seen that Rolling Decade yet from I think it was Derek
No,
Wordy?
it
No,
hadn't been done. Hadn't been
not
done
yet.
yet.
Okay.
No, no. This is prior to, like, you gotta remember, this is like really, or this is early '87. Rolling tricks were not really much happening. It was not.
I don't
And
remember him at all. For me it was just like there was in the kid economy of like pre-social media, you would get
mhm,
a phone call like so and so did this, like it's a trick, but they did a rolling, and it was like, I mean, and we heard
yeah,
things like rolling, rolling lawnmowers. It was like the rolling stubble ducks,
mhm,
and you're
all
just
of it.
like, how, what, and if until you see a sequence, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. It was unreal.
Yeah,
So that's why I was just curious,
yeah.
like, if you had you even heard of rolling
Oh,
tricks?
well, here's an interesting tidbit. Let me go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Right after, right just prior to um, Velodrome, Kevin had been working on something. Kevin had been working on this trick called the locomotive, where he was sitting on the handlebar, like with the, like a backyard, but with the bar turned,
Yeah.
and he was holding on to the beam of his. He was holding on to the beam of his garage, like the I beam, and he was learning how to use his foot to
Right.
scuff it. So he was learning that, but was like just very rudimentary. Then when we went to Velodrome, we saw Aaron Dole doing the funky chicken. And the funky chicken was a thing where you're scuffing on the front wheel with your foot, and you're keeping the tension of the foot on the scuff of the tire. So no brake is being used. Your foot's using the tire. And Kevin's like, that's the same technique that I was just learning for this thing. He's like, I think it's the same idea. He goes, I've been working on this trick, and it was so hard. Like, he would literally have to get himself in position and then like try to scuff it, and so he kind of had this scuffing thing going on. Kevin kind of had this scuffing thing that he was working on, and I had this forward rolling thing that I was working on,
That's
and
wild. That's wild.
and so those things were coming together, and then we would get together and ride. But I mean, keep in mind it was winter and it was super cold. We'd have to have like winter coats on and gloves, and like it was just kind of real miserable to be out unless it was like a clear day or something. It was just so we had to be very you know very particular with when we could ride. And uh so we had missed the AFA Florida comp. We had seen video of it, and that's when Dennis debuted the G string, where like G turn and then the rolling thing. And
Yeah.
we were like, wow, that's insane. That's really good. But we didn't see a whole lot of other things. But based on what we did see in the velodrome, which was kind of advanced in our minds, we were like, oh, well, that was a month ago. Now we're like 2 months ago. What they're doing right now is probably, way out there,
Right.
because that's how we were thinking. We were advancing quickly. So we could only imagine everybody else was out there.
Right.
And then we were like, okay, we're going to go to what contest can we go to? We're going to go to Austin, Texas in May. All right. Cause we had to like save money, and like I was working at Burger King and we had these like odd jobs.
Yeah, dude.
And so we were like, all right, we're going to go to Texas. We're going to go to Austin, Texas. So we got to be ready. We got to show up at Texas and be ready to do something. And, so we were Kevin and I, and, I mean, I feel like it was just Kevin and I, like oddly, because Mike Daly was away at school, at college. Brett was kind of away at college. It just, there was just, it was made of, there were like another guy, Dale Mitchell, he was with us, but not like he was there riding with us, and there were other people riding with us, but I feel like Kevin and I were the two like really truly for me. I had nothing. I didn't know what I was a senior in high school. I was going to be graduating soon. I had nothing. I had no idea what I was going to do. So I was
Right.
like, I got to make something happen with this bike thing, because I don't know what else I'm doing. So I assumed I would work in the bike industry after, like I wasn't planning on going to college. I wasn't going to go to college. I figured I would get a job somewhere, and then I would eventually end up working in the bike industry in some capacity. That's what
Right.
I assumed.
We all saw RL making like $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And so we all thought, well, I can do that. Why go to college? I can just be RL. Dude, I feel that. Yeah, deeply. Yeah, I
Well,
was
or
right there.
I wasn't necessarily, yeah. Pro BMX Pro Freestyle was a goal to make money at that, but it wasn't. It was still kind of a dream too. So I was thinking in general that I would work at a company.
Right.
You know what I mean? At a like, but anyway. Um. So we went to Austin, Texas, and we had tricks in the bag ready to fire out in the jam circles and stuff, expecting there to be a lot of other things being thrown at us. And it
Right.
turns out we were aliens.
Right. Turns out you were. Yeah.
We go like, wait, what is going on here? What are these guys doing? What is it? All this shit. And I'm like, what? And it was very weird, because like now you had every basically every top dude that you looked up to looking at you going, how did you do that? What is that? Like, how did you learn this? And so we were in an amazing situation. It's like a dream scenario.
Right.
Um, Kevin then had just such an amazing run, because he was super creative. It was almost all his own tricks that you never saw that then. There was never a routine they were like, where unless it was like Woody Itson,
Yeah.
who had like invented a bunch of his early, but Kevin had this routine full of shit that people didn't even know. They were just like, what? And it was the energy, the whole vibe after that when he entered, and Rick Malcherno was dialed. Rick was a great. Rick was always dialed, and he was like he was a strong like he was a strong overall rider, but he had a solid run. Maybe like one touch or two touches, very simple, very little. Um, but you got to remember the AFA judges were 40-year-old guys, 30 to 40-year-old dudes that were kind of part of the racing scene.
Industry. They were
And they're like,
industry.
they're not, they're like, they don't even know what they're, how do you judge something when you don't even know what you're looking at? You're like, wait, what? You know, I just watched hundreds of riders ride, and I judge them on how many times they tap their foot down. There was almost like no criteria to judge upon. You know, you just didn't. So, you know, obviously when Rick did his run, he got a good score, like a high score on it, and it was pretty dialed. But then Kevin went out and did his run. Kevin had a couple touches too, but Kevin's was just so mind blowing
Right.
that the place went nuts. And Kevin ended up getting second because Rick won. People were all bummed. I think we probably were too. We might have been like, we might have been like disappointed because it was just such a like just a movie. It's a movie moment. You know, it's one of
Sure.
those like movie
Sure.
moments. Um, and then Kevin got approached by like pretty much everybody to ride.
Everybody.
Like, yeah, I mean, it was like that's the classic situation. Like everybody back then, the day, every rider would want like do a killer run, and then all of a sudden, hey, we want to sign you. You know, that
Yeah,
kind of
join
thing.
Rad Racing.
Yeah. So um, Haro was kind of full at the moment, and Ron Haro was leading the Skyway team. So Ron talked to Kevin, and he was like, "Hey, would you be interested in riding for Skyway?" And Kevin was like, "Sure, I'll ride for Skyway." He didn't think much about it, and so Kevin got basically signed a full factory deal right after that run, and he was ready to go.
That's wild.
And for me, I was kind of just like so high from the whole like kind of starting to build a name, starting to make a name for yourself. Where when you're a rider from like York, Pennsylvania, like that's just not going to happen. You're not going to become a named like a it was so that it was a big deal for me. Um, but so like everything started happening, and then Freestyle and sent a new kid that was like uh he was like a grunt kid, like who was a photographer, but he was going to write a story. His name is Spike Jones, and he was from Rockville.
What a hack.
And
Yeah.
he was like he was just a one he was a wannabe. and and um Spike Spike the irony is Spike came up to do the interview. Spike did the interview, not the photography. This guy Bob Stuckey did the photography. Bob Stuckey was this guy Haji. Haji was a skater, and he was connected to Rockville BMX.
Yeah.
So
I remember the name Haji. I didn't remember his real name. Yeah.
Haji. Well, Haji was Haji's his name. No, his name is Terrence. His real name's Terrence. That's right.
Okay.
Haji. I always knew him as Haji, but anyway, Haji's like older brother, I think older brother, was a good photographer. He was a like pro photographer. So so Spike must have said to Andy and then like, hey, I'll do a story, or they were probably like, hey, do we'll give you an assignment. Do a story on these guys at Plywood Hoods. Just cruise up to York and do a photo shoot with them and do a photo shoot and write story. And Spike had just kind of got offered a job at Freestyling as like a contributor. So Spike was my age. He had just graduated high school, or not. No, he hadn't even graduated high school. So Memorial Day weekend, 1987. Spike and Bob Stuckey come up to York, and like they come up to do this interview, this story for freestyling, and we're like, we don't know what to do. We're like, oh, our natural instincts were like, let's take you around town and just we'll take you to a bunch of stuff, a bunch of spots, and we'll do stuff, and that included jumping. And it was
Right.
almost like free. It was almost like Flatland was not worthy of a photo shoot for us, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I was like, well, let's look at these jumps or whatever. Like, there's a bank. We just were cruising around and and like, yeah, let's hit this bank. And that's where I was doing the tabletop, 1-footed tabletop,
Yep.
and you know, the thought of free, it just was like, oh, you're going to shoot photos. Well, here, let's get some photos of this and this and this and this, and then
I think that's
and
so
that's what,
80s though. That's so 80s because like that's what you did. You just rode around.
yeah,
You weren't nobody.
yeah,
I don't remember that era. This is just a bookmark for you guys watching this. Like think back to that time and your bike was just your everything. It's how you got to
mm-hmm.
like the person you had a crush on was you rode your bike there. You jumped every pothole curb. You there wasn't like
Yeah,
I'm a flatlander. It was like I flatland when I stop at a parking lot or you know like that's what I did there.
mm,
But on the way, if there was you know some jumps or anything like that, you just now I'm a jumper today. You know for the next
yeah,
hour I'm a jumping guy. So that makes total sense. I wouldn't know what to do. I'd be like let me take you to the pizza place where we all eat and talk about freestyle after this. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
We had no idea what to do, so we yeah, we just kind of went around to all these different spots in the day and shot photos, and then we would, so like a key thing um that we always did, you know, when we're out riding all day, we would always stop at convenience stores, get a drink or get a snack or something.
of course.
And we did that, and we were hanging out at this convenience store, and I forget how it was, if I was if they were inside getting stuff and me and Spike were outside. I forget, I can't remember. But I was doing some things. Spike was using Bob's camera. He's like, oh, I'll take some pictures. And uh we did the I was doing that sort of, I forget what it was called, can pivot rivet, where you like spin and you throw your foot. So um it ended up being the black and white photo that was on the cover of Freestyle, but we were literally just messing around. It wasn't like, you know, Spike just picked up the camera and he was just like, yeah, let me get some photos of that. And we were just, I was like, I think I did it maybe 3 or 4 times. We got some photos, and that was it. And then, you know, they did an interview with us afterwards. And then literally Spike and Haji left my house and went to California. Like they left from there to go to Wizard.
Dude,
And and Spike didn't even go to his high school graduation. He just like he graduated a couple of days later, and he's like, I'm going to California. I've got a job. And so like he missed his graduation and just went to
so
California.
punk rock. That is so
It
punk rock.
was very, and yeah, they just did like a 30-hour road trip. Like they literally just road tripped it. Um, and uh, so then maybe like a month later, there's a contest, Converse contest in LA at the Velodrome.
Yep.
And we went out to that. We went out, the whole crew, like Daly, Kevin, me, Dale, I forget who else, Jamie maybe. Um,
Were you
like we
sponsored
all,
yet? Were you did
no, no,
okay.
no. Hey, keep in mind, this is only a month. We're talking about, we're still only not even a month away from what just happened in Austin. So
Okay.
like, there's a high buzz on the Plywood Hoods. There's a high buzz going on, like you know,
Right.
in the scene, like, you know, like people going, oh, you know, but no magazine coverage yet. Nothing's really out yet. Because remember, the magazines were 2 months. Magazines hitting the streets for 2 months from the time of something happening. You
Right.
know, so like if an event happened, you wouldn't see that on in a magazine for 2 months at the back
At
casinos.
least, yeah.
And so we went out to California. We stopped at Wizard, and now we were like, we were like, we were kind of in the, felt like we could go to Wizard, we could go in, hey, we're, like, it wasn't weird for us to just pop in there, like, oh yeah, come on you guys. And and Daly was with us because Daly was tight with Andy and Lou and stuff, and plus they were like, oh, we're going to show you let's show you some of the photos from the shoot. And we were like, oh, cool. And they were like showing us all the different photos from our shoot. And we were like, wow, that's cool. And they're like, check this out. And showed this black and white photo of me on the thing. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, well, we like this one. But they kept it a secret. They were like, they kept it a secret. And nobody told me that it was no,
The
nobody told
cover.
me it was a cover until I saw it, until it got sent to me. And I'm like looking at it going, like, you can't process that. How do you process
Right.
the magazine you get in the mail? Now keep in mind, it was a tear sheet. They gave us a tear sheet copy that had it was just like a pre-copy. So
Yeah.
it wasn't actually my subscription yet. Subscription did come.
Yeah.
Subscription did come with me on, like, that's pretty trippy.
Did you keep the
That
tear
was,
sheet?
yeah, but I don't have it anymore. But
Yeah.
I had it, and it was a huge. You can imagine, we had
What a
a few
moment,
tear
dude.
sheets.
What a moment.
Um, I can't like express enough how big that was. At the time, that was like the biggest thing ever. Like, um, it was so big, I didn't understand. I didn't know how to. I couldn't comprehend it when I looked at it. I was like, "That's me on the cover." Like, I'm just like, and like, I'm nobody. I'm not like a known. Nobody knows who I am. I'm just this guy named Lung Mustard, and I'm just like, holy shit, this is like, shit's happening. Like, things are moving. But now we're into like 87,
Hmm.
September, October, and the stock market crashes, and bike sales are kind of like dropping.
They are.
Like, at that time, they were really like it was a weird time. It was the start of the 87 was a huge year, and it was also the start of the like, there were a lot of guys still making six-figure salaries in 87, and then a lot of things were being cut. And a lot of things were like, oh shit, like, it's
Quickly.
going down. So
Yeah.
yeah, it went quick. And so I was all pumped up because I was like, I've got, I oh, and then there was an 87 Ohio AFA Ohio comp, and the 16 to 18 class, or 16, I think maybe it was 16 and over expert, had 120 some people in that class.
Jeez.
And it was a lot, 126, I think. And I got third, or I got I was a tiebreaker with Gary Pollock for third, and which was crazy. It was like, that's still crazy because it was 100 some people, and I was like, holy crap, I'm up there, I'm in there. And then we had a runoff, and I basically was like, all right, I got to just do all my tricks. I have to just do a runoff with like my stuff. And that's what I did. I made a runoff with like my stuff, steamroller whiplash, like the switch footed squeak, like the kick in the front wheel, just a few things. And I ended up winning the runoff. I got third. Carl Roth got first, and Joker Tola got second. I got third. But these, that was a heavy hitter class back then. That was like in the amateur world. So in my mind, I was like, man, things are moving. Things are going great. And but technically the industry was not doing great. And so Kevin and I, we kept pushing. He would come down, like, we would. So I was not in school anymore, and he'd call me in the morning and be like, he'd talk to me about the trick that he was working on. And he's like, yeah, I got this trick I'm working on. It's like it's like a nose wheelie on the front peg. And I'm like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah. But he's like, I jerk it up to get the seat in there. because you know how like when you do a squeaker and you're sitting on the seat and you got it stretched and it's in that comfort zone. He's like, picture that going forward. And I was like, oh no way. And he came down and showed it to me, and it was hang five, and I mean like a real hang five, like throw it up and
Right.
cruise it. And I was like, no way, that's crazy, And I wasn't even trying to learn it. We would show each other these tricks, but we weren't. Kevin would show me his new tricks. I would show him my new tricks, but we wouldn't be like trying to learn each other's. It was just, it came from the breaking thing. It came
Yeah.
from the, like, you do this, I do this. And you know what I mean? And, that's just what it was, the way it was. So then I remember going, oh, you know what? I got this cool trick. Check this out. Like, do a boomerang, get into like this, the, I can't remember, but you do a boomerang to the back peg and you're cruising, and then you pull it up to do a rope-a-roni.
Right.
And the rope-a-roni the name rope-a-roni was a snack. Rope-a-roni was like a Slim Jim. So
I never knew that.
It was a beef stick called rope-a-roni, and we used to laugh at it. It was a funny name.
I was
So
today years old when I learned that. I thought that was just the name of the trick, dude.
I just called it rope-a-roni. I don't forget why I just called it that, but I called it rope-a-roni. and basically you yank up on the front, and you throw it up to a rolling upside down where you're holding the pegs,
Yeah.
and then try to come out the other way, or come out, the other side. Well, I showed him that. I showed Kevin that. I was like, check this out. And I was like getting there. He's like, oh wow. And then like literally a few days later, he's like, check this out. And he's like, remember that what you showed me? And he yanks it up and holds it. He's coasting it like rope around. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. So it was that back and forth all the time, like on almost daily basis, like on a weekly basis. We were like, there was new things kind of coming. And yeah, I mean, and it was probably around that time where we were at a friend's and he was showing us Animal Chin, the Animal Chin video.
Yeah.
Search
Pal
for Animal
Peralta.
Chin, Pal
Yep.
Peralta. Like we were at a party and they were playing it, because we had a lot of friends that were skaters in the area.
I think that's every
And
freestyler.
yeah,
We all just hung out together. Yeah.
yeah. It was just part of the, yeah, you kind of had like mine. We saw Animal Chin. I was just like, dang, that's a good video, because it's not, it's just fun. It was core. It was to this. It
When
was
they took that
interesting.
cutout out, dude, I mean, every kid, their mind blew when when it was like, oh, they pulled that section out and you could go through the tunnel underneath, dude. I remember every kid, we just went, what? No way.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude, that was
there's
crazy.
so many. There's some. Anyway, that was a really well done. That was a well done video, and
Yeah.
it wasn't. It kind of opened up our minds to, oh, videos don't have to be rad TV. They don't have to be, they don't have to be this, like, I don't know, this corporate looking thing. It has
Chapters.
to have some style to it. It has to have something cool to it. So I probably said to Kevin when we were watching, I was like, we got to make a video like this. We just have to make a video. Like that's like you saying, you know what, I'm going to DJ something. Like it's like I was so not in the with any know-how other than what we had known from filming each other on with Super 8 camera. Um, and we didn't own a VCR. We didn't own. We might have owned a VCR. We did own a VCR because the Cardboard Lords won this big local contest, and we won the VCR that edited. We won the VCR that edited Dorkin and York by breakdancing.
Oh, dude, that's so good. That is so good. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
can
So
you imagine, like,
we did share a VCR. We shared a VCR.
dude,
Yeah,
coming home from like like coming home from a battle like that, and you're like, and we have a VCR. Like, as a crew, we have our own VCR. That's fantastic.
yeah. And that was 85, and now this is like 87 or so.
Yeah.
And um and um And you know what? Kevin had a VCR because his parents were up on stuff. Like he had a VCR, so it wasn't really. I was able to have it, but we would trade it off. They'd be like, here, you use it for a while, you use it for a while. You use it. So like um let's just say around the beginning of '88. um I was, Lou. So what would happen is Lou would call different areas around the country, different scenes. Be like, hey, what's going on? What's new? What's new in your area? And like they would do that to gather like the news
Sure,
information. So like,
sure.
oh, so he would like just write down new notes, and then they would then figure out what they're going to put in for the news section. And
Right.
that was a common thing. Lou would call, well, almost monthly, like just be like, hey guys, what's up? Like whatever. And he called, and I think it was right around the time where we were like all kind of hyped up on making a video, and we were talking about it. And I was like, yeah, we're gonna make a video. I don't know when, but we're like really gung ho on it. And then he was like, oh well, like what? Give me some information about it. And I'm literally off the top of my head going, I don't know. We'd probably just do this and maybe charge $10 and whatever. So like fast forward like a month, little over a month, it's in the Club Homeboy zine, which had a pretty big circulation, and it said Lung Mustard said Plywood Hoods are making a BMX video called Dorkin in York. If you're interested in a copy, send $10 to Eaton at his address. And all I know is I got letters and letters and letters and letters with $10 bills in them. And I
Yep.
was like, oh shit, now what am I gonna do? We don't even know how to make a video. So what are we gonna do? And so um we just like it took us a while to kind of figure out how we're even gonna do this. And then finally Kevin, we rented a camera from Blockbuster. Like literally you could rent a camera from Blockbuster for like, I swear it was like $29, $30 a day or something, like for the whole day. And
Sure.
the battery would last you hours. So like you could have if we had two batteries with it, I swear the batteries lasted like 2 hours.
Was
So
it
like
was it one of
we could
these
just
kind? The shoulder kind?
shoulder cam, shoulder
Yep.
VHS, yeah, your standard shoulder VHS camera. We like rented it for like 2 days, literally 2 days. And then we had other footage like from our friend Jim Delval and Large Ray and Gary. They had little video things that they sent that were like, hey, could I get this video from you and this video? And we just had a whole bunch of footage. And then I just was trying to figure out how to edit it and try to make a video with it and how am I going to do this? And a lot of it was just literally me just trying to figure it out. And I wish I would have had somebody that if I had somebody that knew what they like any type of producer back
Yeah.
then that knew what to do and would tell me, it would have been so much easier and so much more kind of understandable. But I was literally figuring it out. I was
Right.
literally going, okay, if I link my audio mixer and the natural sound from the camera to that, I can mix the two. It was like all this like kind of how do we do this? And then what's the best
Was
way? And so,
was Avid even around then? Like,
oh no. This is spring of '88. This is like
yeah.
March of '88, March,
Yeah.
April of
So was that a
'88.
million
Because
dollar investment with like huge decks and all of
not
that?
yeah, not even
Yeah.
I mean, we so I think I forget how many orders I had for Dorkin. Probably like 100 envelopes, probably roughly there.
Yeah.
And so we could use that money to rent to get the stuff and then buy tapes and I'm trying to think what else. But then had no idea how to duplicate it. I didn't know how to like make copies of it. Didn't know
No.
how to make a cover. And so like it was all just kind of like, oh, let's see. Well, let me design a cover, what the cover is going to be. Let me Xerox a bunch of them, and then I'll just glue it to the existing
Yeah.
thing. I'll go
Yeah.
to Kmart and I'll buy a 10 pack, bunch of 10 packs of VHS tapes
Yeah.
and literally make them one by one, go ride for 40 some minutes, 43 minutes, come back in, next, go
No
ride.
way.
I was making one at a time, uh, one at a time, and then gluing it, making it, all the things. So like we had like I think it was maybe like 300 ish that were made at Dorkin and York VHS. Um, I do have one hand, not like not handy, but I should have thought about that. Um, because I bumped into somebody in Colorado like way many years later, and they're like, "Hey, I brought this for you," and I was like, "What?" And it was an actual like the real one that I
Yeah.
made. And I was like, "Oh wow, look at that!" And but anyway, like I said, all huge learning process of what,
Just
and
daisy chained VHS machines.
it wasn't even about making money. It wasn't like we
Yeah.
saw some kind of idea of, oh wow, we could sell a lot of these tapes. It was just we wanted to like make some we wanted it was no different than it was just like the extension of writing. You know, it
Right.
was the extension of the same thing as wanting to put out your tricks and wanting to put out like it's the same, it was the same mindset, same thing. So yeah, we sold them, but by no means was it anything of like a money making thing.
No.
And then like a few months later, like that they were getting around, but keep in mind the industry was dying, was still like it was like dying as this
Right.
was all happening. It was kind of like um you know uh things were not looking good, and it was just so I didn't have a sponsor. um I had I had I had offers. So this is where I got shot. Here's where I shot myself in the foot or got screwed. I had three good sponsor options, which were they were called what were they? They were like co-factory. Co-factory sponsor back then was actually a great sponsor. You got a bike, you got uniform, you got you got contests paid for, and you got travel to the con. The only thing you didn't get was I don't think you didn't get magazine contingency, and you didn't get a salary. You didn't get
Right.
paid,
Right.
but you got everything else, which was like traveled and all that stuff, and you got the bikes and all that stuff. So I had three decent deals sitting on me, like GT, Dino, and Haro.
Nice.
And I was like, those were like, that's like dream come true, right? Kevin, Kevin's factory sponsorship with Skyway, he was getting a salary. Can't remember what it was. It might have been like 1,200 a month or something. But it was a
Right.
salary. It was like he was able to not work and just ride.
Right.
And that was my whole goal. I was like, oh man, if I could just get like 500 a month, 400, 500 a month or something like that to ride, and then
Right.
with my stones. So Revcore had just kind of taken over CW, like they branched into Revcore, and um, Gary Pollock had left CW and went to GT. Revcore needed Revcore was looking for riders. Mike Miranda called me, asked me if I was interested, and it was a full factory thing. And I was like, yeah, I'm interested. And so they sent me a bike, or they sent me a frame fork bars, maybe like I forget maybe whatever they had at the time. I think it was frame fork seat post actually.
Yeah.
It was very knurled. It was very CW. It was decent. Wasn't a huge fan of the geometry. It was like because I was used to riding Haros and
Right.
it just had had a more laid back geometry, and this geometry was like a CW. It was like very steep. So I was like, all right, yeah, cool. I've got a full factory sponsorship. That's cool. All right. Um, so I got sent to one contest, like Tucson, Arizona, and um, when I got to the when I got to the contest, my I got my bike out of the box. The fork dropout was broken off. Like the fork dropout broke off in travel.
Oh
And I was
no.
like, oh man, I gotta find a fork, and it was a pain in the butt trying to find a fork. I had to ride with a with I had to ride. I had a really crappy run because I had to ride with this fork that was all jacked up,
Sure.
and 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 then like it was a really poor run for me, really poor, and I just remember like the whole thing seemed like um not that great. Like seemed like oh man, like it was almost like a bummer. The next contest, oh, I hadn't gotten a contract yet. I hadn't gotten a contract, and I was like, we were going to go to Austin again. So Austin was coming up, 88.
Yep.
Um, and I'm like, hey, where's my plane ticket? We're like 2 weeks away, or 10 days out. Oh yeah, we'll get it to you. We'll get it to you. And like I need to have a con. I need a contract. I want to get this rolling. I want to get this
Right.
deal rolling. Okay. Well, that contract never came, and then the ticket that was that and now it's like 3 days away from there's 3 days away from Austin, which we are debuting. We are going to debut Dorkin in York at this contest.
Oh,
So first year was debuting of the Plywood Hoods at essentially like that was like our breakthrough. So like this year's we're
sure.
going to debut our video, and so literally it's like a day like basically they lied to me and said no, like they just were like not going to send me there. So literally I was like, well, I guess I got to pay my way. So like I literally like remember going to the box with all the Dorkin orders and getting money and going to the airline or the travel agent,
Yeah.
getting a ticket. It wasn't much. They weren't much back then. The tickets were less than $200. I think of flying to might have been 180, $190 round trip to Austin. So yeah, just and I think I had like maybe 10, 12 copies of Dorkin in York with me to sell. And we went to 88. Oh, and I pulled off all the stickers from my RevCore, and I didn't use I wasn't going to ride the uniform. I was just going to ride whatever, and entered, and I had a decent run, fun run. I think I got fifth maybe, but that was it. There was no sponsor, and so I was just like, oh, I shot down like three great sponsors to for the potential to ride for this full factory that didn't become anything.
Right.
So and like just having those quality bikes alone would have been it was like, but I was all trying to get paid. I was trying to
Sure.
like I want to in my head I was like I want to be a full factory sponsored rider, whether that was just making a few $100 a month or that's all I really needed. And I think our contract was really going to be something like 500 a month or something like that. It wasn't
Right.
much
That's
cash,
not much.
for no. Um, it might have been more, but I don't think it was. Maybe it was 600 a month. You know, um, um, I lived at home, and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of were like, all right, well, let's just keep pushing. Let's keep pushing this. Let's keep going. And like we're gonna sell this video and we're gonna just do this thing. And then I'm kind of dragging this whole thing along, but I'm giving you literally the
I love it.
timeline of
Yeah.
all right.
I love this stuff because for me, dude, like I have a distinct memory of like the ordering this happened, but from an audience perspective, right? So for me, it's
Mhm.
like I remember these coming out. I remember I feel like I sent $10 in it, you know what I mean? Like I feel like I was
Yeah,
one of those people that sent $10 because like up until that point, just like you have a vivid memory. I'm like, BMX videos were like $40 if you wanted
yeah,
one from the store. So it was like the only people that had BMX videos was the bike shop, but then you had to have like a credit card or something on file to like
Mhm.
rent the VHS tape from the bike shop, which like no single moms in the 80s had credit to have a credit card. So it was like you really had to know someone that could rent a video to watch a video. So seeing like, okay,
Yeah,
this is gonna be a real video from these guys that are better than everybody that we're watching in magazines for $10. Like
right, right.
the value for like a 15-year-old kid at that moment was very high. And you're like,
Yeah,
I will absolutely spend $10 for this. So like the memories
yeah,
that I have I remember these things, you know?
yeah. We weren't, like I said, we weren't trying to make money. We were just trying to sell it, and we weren't thinking it was going to be anything. And we kept working on stuff. We kept filming, and we kept thinking, okay, we'll make another one at some point. And we did. And we met this kid. We met this young kid named Dave Mira, and he was a really good rider from New York. And he came down. He came down to stay with me for like his parents drove him down. They didn't even know me. They just drove him down and dropped him off with me for like 2 weeks. Or so it was at least I think it was 2 weeks. At least a week. At
Yeah.
least I think it was two. Um, and we rode like crazy. He was like he would outride us. Like we were already we were almost kind of already been there, done that vibe. And he was just all, you know, like wake up in the morning and let's go. And, he was on it. But then he was also 14 years old. So,
Sure.
um, uh, so yeah, so like we met him and we put him in Dorkin too. And he's and tried to get his name out there and get him rolling. And he did. And, so, I mean, literally it was just, uh, Plywood Hoods we were just grinding it out and then making videos and with no, Kevin lost his sponsor with Skyway because they just kind of had to, whatever they had to kind of close down whatever they were doing. I forget how it all worked out, but I don't think it bothered us. I think we were just like, well, we're just going to keep riding, and we're like, I don't think we had any other plan, or we didn't have a plan. We were like, we're just going to keep doing it,
Right.
and we did that, and then '89 street riding was more popular. It was perfect for me because I was always street riding, and then I was just started entering street comps because it was just right there for me,
Right.
and it was fun. It was fun. Flatland wasn't quite as fun for me anymore because Flatland was like Flatland was being Flatland was getting a little more almost like so um not regimented, but like really hardcore. Flatland was getting more like you had to be a Flatlander. You had to be this because otherwise you're not going to be able to make it in the scene unless you're just doing that only.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, and of course Kevin still was inventing tricks. He was still doing stuff, but he wasn't doing Flatland only. We would always go ride around and that, but he definitely was. He got picked up by GT and had a nice full factory sponsor with them, and that only lasted not like less than a year. But he we got because he was on GT. I kind of got the benefit of getting dyno stuff. So we would go to GT factory every time we went to California. We'd go out there, and Magoo would take us around, and we just load up a shopping cart with parts and get
Right.
our bikes all dialed in, and it was great. Um, so from that standpoint, we were just had working jobs and riding, and then
Right.
I don't think there was any kind of we didn't have anything in our head going, oh wait, what are we gonna do? What is this? Like, what's our goals? Didn't think about that. We were just doing it. We were just all right. I don't know. It's so weird thinking about it now, but
It was
um,
hard, like, because freestyle was like for me, freestyle was my identity. That's how every
yeah,
kid
yeah,
in town knew me. Um,
yeah,
like if it's even today, dude, when I post pictures of bikes, like my elementary school friends are like this, like nothing has changed. You know what I mean? Like that was my
Hmm.
identity then. So like if freestyle ended, I ended. That was the hard part for me.
Yeah,
It was just trying to be like, well, what am I without freestyle?
yeah.
So I get it.
And so I think, you know, I'm just trying to figure out. I don't think anybody knew what was going on in like '89 with freestyle. I don't think, I think street riding was like this, like meet the street contests and street, and the magazines were all kind of almost like keeping us just, I wouldn't say distracted, but pacified. Like we were being pacified by what was going on, but really there was nothing. The writing, there was nothing there was no light at the end of the tunnel. It was just, you know, oh, the magazines are happening. There's contests happening. Okay, well, let's just keep going. Let's keep
Yeah.
grinding away.
I
But
remember
in it,
thinking, I remember thinking like I remember freestyling getting more and more skateboard content. And that
mm-hmm.
was my
Yes,
clue. That was
yeah,
my clue that like even as a kid, I remember thinking to myself, like, it's a freestyling magazine. They have Trans World, they have Thrasher, they don't need my magazine.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
I was just like, well, why would they be doing that? And it was like, well, that's where the advertising dollars are. They're not freestyle companies aren't advertising in here. So
yeah,
that was my thing. Like, no one has gold bikes anymore. Nobody's wearing factory uniforms anymore. Something's up. You just didn't know what it
yeah.
was, you know?
Well, yeah, it was so oddly enough, me personally, um, I was the the Pal Peralta videos were still coming out like on a
Hmm.
yearly basis, and they were like fueling me like creatively video wise. So I was like, oh wow, look what they did here. Look at all this, and it just techniques and just all that stuff, filming style and everything,
Fisheye lenses.
and it's just everything, just the
Yeah.
whole thing. So
Yeah.
I was learning. I was becoming like my film school essentially, and then with filming ourselves, you know, just the practice of filming. So so we were, like I said, just okay with putting out another video and putting it and just going along with it and doing it, and we were just doing it, and and honestly, like it wasn't until like the fourth video, the Dorkin 4, um, I was out. I went to the Meet the Street in Palm Springs, 90, October of 90. And we were staying at RL's house in Hermosa Beach. Me and Jay Miron were staying there. And actually, at the time, Lou lived there, and Daly were lived there. Lou, Daly, and RL shared a house,
I didn't
shared
know
that
that.
house.
I didn't know
They
that.
were that Lou and Daly paid like rent. They basically rented rooms at RL's. It was a great house right by the beach. It was a great place.
That's dope.
But what was nice because when I came to California, I had a place to crash. I could go because Mike lived there, and I knew
Right.
RL, um and RL, like we were hanging out there and shooting, just talking about videos, and he goes, oh, because Dorkin 4 just released, so I had a suitcase full of Dorkin 4s with me to bring there, and I sold a bunch, and basically I would pay for my trip. I would pay for my whole like
Self fund
that whole
crowd-funded.
trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so or I was like, what was the budget on that? We watched Dorkin 4. He was like, that's video is awesome. Like, what was your budget on that? I was like, budget. Like, but there was no budget. It's like what, $40?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like I was like, you know, like I'm like, there's no budget. And he's like, well, and then he goes, well, how much would you charge to make a video like that? And I'm like, I'm thinking, I don't, I don't know. And then he goes, well, we just paid Bright Hop produced it, with that company, with his one of the production companies. He said we just paid 25,000 for the bully video,
Oh my
and
God.
I was like, my mind was like, what? Someone got paid $25,000 to make a BMX video. Like,
Right,
like
right.
I was just like, I was just like, my mind was like, what in the heck? You know, and then because it never dawned on me that I would be paid to do a video. You know what I mean? Never even didn't even that mindset didn't even cross my mind that that could be even a potential. Because we were just making videos and selling them for, I don't know, $20 at that point. You know,
Right.
here, you know, maybe sell like 500 videos in a year. You know, like and I sold them, Kevin sold them, whoever like wanted to make them sold them. It wasn't no kind of like, it was just totally haphazard, whatever.
Sure.
So it like completely opened my mind. I was like, wait a minute, maybe I could do this video thing for real. And like, because I don't know what I want to do when I'm done riding. I don't know if I want to, you know, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. And I mean, I was working at UPS loading the vans at UPS early in the morning. It
Right.
was a part-time job that was like 4 hours a day, but it got paid. I think we got paid $11 an hour then, which in 1990 was pretty decent. It was
Sure.
pretty not bad. Um, and so I I had a good part-time job. I had benefits and stuff because it was UPS, and I had most of the day to ride, so or do what I wanted to do. So
Make twenty five
yeah,
thousand
so I
dollar
would.
videos is what you yeah.
Well, I mean, even if it not, I mean that's kind of that's extreme, but it was just like the idea that you know that could be a thing that could actually
Sure.
happen, and
600 bucks from RevCore. You know what I mean? I'm just doing the mental math. Yeah.
yeah, just that whatever. But anyway,
I'm tracking.
what this shows is I wish I had somebody that could have been like, hey, like, like, like I've said it many times, like if we could have had coaches, like how college teams have coaches, if we you know we were athletes in terms of the amount of grind, the amount of determination and practice and everything we put into it, but we didn't have anybody steering the ship, you know, really going, hey, like go here, do this, do like this is a proven method or whatever, you know. So if we could have had somebody like that, you know, on our side, in our corner, um, we could have done probably a lot bigger things.
Yeah.
But we didn't. We were pretty casual about it. We were very serious about the actual what we did. We were just casual in other aspects. We didn't carry that like tenacity, the drive to. We didn't carry it to the
The passion was
money
riding,
making
not for
side.
business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
It makes
This
sense.
is us. But yeah. So um, from that point on, I was like from 90 on, from like so basically from 90 on, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do videos. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna really focus on making videos. And I studied every freaking video, from a music video, from anything on MTV. I literally like studied it. I would watch it, and I would see like all the things. So I would look at how it was shot, how it was edited, like how they, you know, all those things.
Transitions and all
And
that. Yeah, yeah.
everything, just every aspect. I'd watch it and watch it. I just was a sponge, taking it all in, taking everything in I could, and recording a lot of it too. Like I would just like I would literally like hit record on my VCR for like as long as it could go with MTV, just MTV recording, and then come back, and then I would just scroll through and see what videos recorded and what commercials or what stuff, because it was like sort of all kind of like cutting edge at the time at that exact time.
Right.
So I would just literally go through the tapes and watch, and I go, okay, there's that, and like I would watch all kinds of stuff like that, and we just kept. Uh, so you know that gets us into the 90s, and still making videos and still just doing our thing, but with the reality that you know the BMX world is kind of like the BMX industry is kind of like not doing anything, and we just had to be okay with that. We just had to be like, okay, this is what you know what we're doing, and in 91, Kevin actually wanted to start a Plywood Hoods bike company. He asked, like, he's like, let's do Plywood Hoods bike company. He's like, we can get Dave Mirra to ride for us. We can get all the people. We can get definitely some good people to ride for it. And
Right.
he was like, I'll design it. We kind of had Peregrine as like a person, as a company that would like help us. Then they were flowing us a lot of great. They were flowing us wheels and their parts, and we kind of had like a in there. And I said I couldn't do it because it was I was looking at the video path, and the bike industry path was way too sketchy at the time for me,
Sure.
because I
Sure.
was like, I didn't want to like go down that road of a bike company and then regret, you know, not, whatever. I could have easily, looking back, I could have easily done both, but the bike industry thing, the Plywood Hoods bike company just seemed too much of a risk, too like,
Sure.
it's not going to work. But it probably would have worked. It probably would have worked great. Like looking back and seeing all the other companies that came up, Standard came up. This is all before Standard. This is before Hoffman.
Hoffman,
This
Hoffman,
was
yeah.
before. This is before that. So I
It
mean,
make it makes
Ron
sense though
had Ron
after the
had two
RevCore
hits.
thing though. After like the RevCore going like, okay, here's the money right now, right? Like going through the RevCore and like, okay, what could have been with Haro GT with those co-factory things. I don't blame you for being a little jaded and not being like, hey, this is it, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The biggest regret of that is not being able to ride good bikes.
Right.
Those bikes were good, and the bike I was riding was not good. The RevCore was shit.
Yeah.
So my riding took it. So not only did I took a hit on many levels, I took a hit on like the a little bit of the riding, because like I'm not riding a bike that's not good, um, and just a lot of things. So like, that's something you look at, you can see back afterwards. Like
Yeah. I
hindsight.
have a
So
very similar story, dude. Like I was having a great time. I was just a little punk kid in Northern California, and
mhm.
it was MCS. MCS, they had a styler, and my
Yeah,
local bike shop started carrying them. They're like, "Hey, do you want to start riding like this MCS thing?" And for me, I was just like, "Oh, recognition." And like that's somebody that's validating what I'm doing. I was like, "Yeah, dude, totally." So I rode like this MCS, and it was kind of like through the shop, but then like MCS was like, "Hey, we want you to come ride this trade show at Interbike for the new MCS styler." And I was like, "Okay, cool." But the bike, they were just the geometry was really poor. It was like
yeah.
a really raked out head tube angle, and the seat post angle was way back, so it was just odd. It was a hard bike to ride. And then I ended up like I got hurt. I dislocated my knee, and I was supposed to go visit the MCS racing team in Bakersfield. I go down there, and like the racing team was just like, yeah, we're like they didn't want me in the photo. Obviously, I had a huge brace on my leg, so it was a bad look,
Mhm.
and I totally understand that. But for me, this was like the first time I'm meeting like this team that has sent me all over the place. And I'm going to meet like the dude I've talked to on the phone and just get totally like blown off and ignored when I show up. I was like, oh, dude, I don't think this is for me. You know what I mean? Like this being sponsored is not my jam. So like we ended up like I never talked to him after that. Like technically, I guess I'm still sponsored because they never said I wasn't, but like we just stopped talking to each other completely. It was wild. But
Yeah.
like I think that's a common story where people were just like jumping at like what they thought was the right move, being 14, 15, 16. You don't know anything about anything, and
Right.
like you just kind of go for it and you hope for the best. And then I think what we being older and more mature now, we can look back and go like, man, when I dislocated my knee, I lost a whole summer of riding. And you're like, well, that sucks. But when you really think about like how long we had to ride freestyle, like that 10, 15 years, one summer was such a huge
So
wedge of
big.
that.
It's a percentage. It's a real
It's
percentage.
huge. Yep,
Uh,
absolutely. Okay, sorry,
and
dude. I
and
just went
another
off on a
thing,
tangent. But
that we don't that like large Ray and I talk about all the time is like the amount of stuff that happened in freestyle happened from 85 to 90. We're talking 5 year period, and everything happened in that period.
Yeah.
So, and you could even whittle it down to like 85 to 88,
You
and
really could.
like everything happened.
That
So,
was when like we just jumped from hopping to rolling within like 3 years. Like the
I mean,
progression was
everything
just
changed. Everything went through the whole, like, just everything.
yeah,
The whole industry just like went. So it's we're talking about like a 5 year window,
it's
and
wild.
so yeah, it's very crazy. But uh, I mean that gives you my story of that part. What else? What
Yeah.
else would you like? What else would you like to talk about?
I mean, I just want to kind of hear like for me the Joe Kid stuff because like for me I in 91 I graduated high school. In 92 and at that point I'm the only one riding in my peer group at all. Everyone
Yeah,
else is
yeah.
gone. I go to college because like that's what you're supposed to do. And I get to college and I realize I'm just flat out depressed. I'm not riding and I'm just like away from home, away from everyone, and I'm depressed. And I was like, well, what brings me joy? And I was like, so I don't know anything from anything. I go into a bike shop and I buy a Go magazine and I'm literally in the parking lot going through it, just like who's still here. And it's like you're just looking like who's still around, right? You're like Dennis McCoy's still here.
Mhm.
That's cool. But none of the brands that I know look like the bikes that I know or anything like
So
it.
it was almost like it was almost different. It was like you're looking at something you almost didn't recognize. Is that right?
100% I didn't recognize it because like I leave and the last bike I rode was an Ozone, a Method 1 that I literally got for like $50 out of the back of the Ozone factory from some dude that worked there and it was like that. So then I open up this magazine, everything's a bash guard
Yeah.
and I'm like I don't recognize this at all. But I bought a bully because of RL. I was like, well, I understand.
Mhm.
I recognize RL's name. I bought a bully, and I'm like, I'm gonna flatland again. But that's when the realization that like college takes up this much of my time. I can't spend my entire like 3 hours in a parking lot anymore. That's just not
All
the
right.
way that my life operates, and I can't do that. So I think at that point is when the depression kind of really hit like, okay, this is over, dude. Like you're not going to you're no longer
Right.
a flatlander. You're just a dude that used to flatland. Um,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? That was a really hard pill to swallow. And then life goes on, right? You just kind of go about your thing, you get a job. And I just remember seeing, I don't know where I saw it, where I heard about Joe Kidd on Stingray, but like I heard
So
about
you had a kind of like you dipped out. You dipped
Mhm.
out then. You had a full like 10 year minimum 10 year period out.
It where I had random bikes. Like I remember
Hmm.
I bought a bully, didn't ride it very much. Came back from college, and at that point, I think I don't remember the order, but it was a standard shorty and a Hoffman Big Daddy. Like I bought those two
Okay.
frames, just trying to find the one, right? This is
Yeah.
gonna feel like
Yeah.
flatland again to me. Not understanding that it wasn't the bike, it's the time that I have to commit to it because I'm no
Yeah.
longer 15 years old and I have responsibility. I have
Hmm.
bills and rent and all this stuff. So um I think I had a Quamin at one point. Like I bought a Quamin and then that bike was so small and it was like
That was probably late '90s. That was probably a late '90s
it
thing. Yeah.
was, yeah, it was,
Yeah.
I mean, I dabbled, but I just couldn't get like like
Hmm.
I call it like in that late 90s, doing hang fives suddenly were scary, where they weren't when I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
14. Suddenly this
Uh-huh.
is scary. And I'm like, this ain't for me anymore. I wanted to
Yeah.
ride, but it wasn't for me. Um, and so, but I remember I found somewhere, I don't know where I saw Joe Kidd on the Stingray. I feel like I saw it like in a Suncoast or somewhere like that, dude. Like I don't think it was from a BMX magazine. I think it was in general pop.
You just
Like
happen to see it. Oh, what's this? What's this
yeah,
thing?
Gen
What's this
Pop.
document?
I was like, what is this? And then I see your name on it, right? And I'm like, oh, dude, this is okay. This is real. This is because I thought it was going to be another, GT. Like we hired somebody to make this documentary and they have no idea what they're talking
Mm.
about. I bought
Yeah.
it and I got home and I was just like, this is everything to me. It's the bus, the SE bus is in here. It's narrated by a voice that I'm very familiar with because of, West Coast Choppers, and it had us in it. You know what I mean? That was the
Yeah.
first time I've seen RL in ages, like a grown-up RL. I'm like, there's RL Osborne as an adult. Oh my God. Look, he's got all these tattoos now.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? You're like,
Yep.
he looks like me. You know what I mean? It was such an
Yeah.
eye-opening thing. Um, Tell me just a brief, how did that happen? How did you get the balls to go like, I'm gonna make the story of like us?
Well, obviously so Joe Kid on a Stingray came out in 2005. Came out in yeah in 2000. Was it 2000? I'm trying to double check.
I feel like it was earlier, but I'm not going to question the
No, no,
date. Yeah.
2004. I know it was 2005 that um, we edited it. We finished it in 2004, but we
Okay.
released it. We released it in '05. So like meaning and so Dogtown and Z Boys was now ironically carrying over from Al Peralta, Animal Chin, my influences on filmmaking. Um, 99 or 2000, I think, Dogtown and Z Boys came out, the film. And obviously I was like, wow, that's a great documentary. I didn't care about documentaries. I wasn't really a documentary kind of guy. I was like a sports video guy and
Right.
creative music video kind of thing. But this was a documentary that had so much style and had that same, just like all the PAL videos or PAL Proto videos had, and just like Stacy had a eye for it and just knew how to tell a story. And so my partner John Swar, who I had a production company with, I shared a production company with him, who was also a writer from the King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, Gary Pollock crew. Like he was, I know him from then, and we started a production company in '99. I moved to Philly. I moved to Philadelphia in '98, and we started a production company, and then we were just producing all of our like both of us were producing through this company. And we saw Dogtown and Z Boys. We're like, oh my gosh, that has to be done for BMX. And and at the time, I was like, well, man, every BMX filmmaker is going to think the same thing. They're all going to go, oh, I'm going to make this. I'm going to make I'm going to make Dogtown and Z Boys for BMX. You
Yeah.
know, so literally, I just started calling people up, my video friends and people in the industry, and I just said, hey, uh, I'm working on this new film. I'm working on this new film called it's a history of BMX film. Um, and I forget like if I was saying, hey, would you be able to like I think I was calling so I was calling to say that to basically mark my territory,
Right.
like putting it out
Right.
there, mark my territory. And I was also kind of looking for footage too. I was kind of like, well, if you know how to, I'm going to need some contacts to get in touch with so and so or whatever. Like I'm just like giving you a heads up. I'm working on this film, and the idea was that since I had already done so many BMX video projects, been involved with a variety of them, that if I put it out there, people are like, oh, Eaton's already working on it. I'm not gonna
Hands
like
off. Right.
he's already got the jump on it. Like
Right.
so that was my first like, hey, let's do it. So we made a trailer. We made a total just random trailer for what we thought the film would be. And we played it at the Nora Cup party in 2002 in Vegas on the screen. I went up to the podium and I was like, "Hey, everybody, this is a film we're working on. We're gonna do this, and here it is." And like, it was just like it looked like the Joe Kid on a Stingray trailer, but it was completely just all made up.
Right.
So we started working on this film and and calling people and trying to get things worked out. This is like 2002, 3, and 4. So
Right.
it was like a 3-year thing. And it was really hard to get money. Like nobody wanted to give us money. And which is, makes sense, but we were trying to raise kind of a lot of money. We are trying to raise like, I don't know, a couple 100,000 to cover the cost to make it. And
Right.
because we were going to shoot it on, film, and we were just going to make it total like Dogtown level. It was going to be that level. And
Right.
I had some good gear by that point because I had produced a lot of stuff by then, including the Mirror Tour on NBC, on ESPN.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was a big like a eight 1 hour episodes for ESPN. And so like we had stuff. We had gear, we had the means to do it. We had, the knowledge, and we had to track down everybody. And this was before social media.
Right.
So imagine, how do you get a hold of R.L. Osborne? How do you get a hold of Mike Buff? You know, when you haven't seen them in 20 years, and let alone nobody has seen them in 20 years.
Right.
They're
Who
just
would
like
have their phone number?
all
Yeah.
disappeared. Yeah, you had to I had to call this person to get this person. Like literally, all it was that alone was like a day, all day thing. Like just we would spend our days on the phone talking and just like just maneuvering. So we had to basically schedule all these interviews with the guys, and then like have a pretty broad general interview done with them, and we would use their interview to tell the story. So I didn't know the story. I knew like what to ask, but like a lot of the racing, I didn't know the story. And
Right.
we had Byron Friday was a consultant with us. He helped us a lot because he knew everybody, and he had the knowledge, and he knew everybody still, and he had ways to get to whoever we needed to talk to. So there was, and John kind of tackled the race side, and I kind of tackled the freestyle side. So
Right.
like I started with Bob and went forward, and like that was kind of how we structured the film in a way. Um, so yeah, and then along the way, uh, my idea for the narrator of the film, I always wanted Lenny Kravitz to be the narrator.
Oh, that'd be great, dude. Yeah.
Well, because Lenny was a writer.
I didn't know
Um,
that.
his his dad, he was a racer. His dad was Rennie Roker, or was his stepdad? I'm sorry, I think his stepdad was Rennie Roker, who was a race promoter, and he was married. And Lenny's mom was an actress. I forget her name, but she was an actress on a TV show. And so Rennie was a BMX race promoter, and so there was a there was a little bit of backstory. There was a little bit of
Some
like,
buy-in, yeah,
you know,
some
yeah.
roots. Sure.
Lenny has like a deep. Lenny's just really cool, and it just would have been a really cool thing. And Slash was another one. Slash was another potential, like potential. But what happened was, um, a friend of ours worked for West Coast Choppers, and he was a welder. And he was like, "Hey, I showed Jesse James your trailer because he used to ride BMX. He freaking loves it. Um, he loves it. He goes, he wants to know how he can be involved, or he wants to, whatever. I forget how. It's something along that line."
Yeah.
And we were like, "Let's talk to him." And we got a call. We got him on the phone, and we were talking. He's like, "Yeah, I love it." He's like, "Do you guys need any money?" And we were like, "Yeah." and oh no, I know what it was. We were like, "Hey, what if we ask Jesse to narrate it? Maybe he'll narrate it." And we're thinking, how much are we gonna have to pay him? It's gonna be like whatever. We're just
Sure.
we'll have to figure out how to work that out. But I mean, we were literally thinking we were gonna probably have to pay him 20 grand to narrate it. That was
Sure.
literally in our head. So, um, so yeah, we were just asking. He said, "Yeah, I'm down. I'm down to narrate it." And then that's when he said, "Do you want to? You guys need any money? Get me?" And we were like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, because he goes, I'd like to be a partner." He's like, "I'd like to be a whatever, like partner of it." And we were like, okay. And then we worked out a deal that he was the third
Producer.
partner.
Yeah.
Third partner in it. And John and I did all the sweat equity, and he was going to bring in the equity.
Right.
And because he brought in the equity, he was going to get paid first. He was going to get his 50% of what he was putting up. He was getting his paid first.
Sure.
So because he put up the cash. So that's what we did. We got that deal done, and then that was in 2004. And then we just were like, it was the most greatest relief, because it was like, oh, now like our film is funded. Our film is funded. We can just work on our film.
Right.
Now the downside was, this was now June of 2004. So we're talking 20 years ago right now. Man, June and the
June is
fours
big
are
for you.
really, June
Yeah.
and the fours are real big, because you know what? You know what also is today? What also is like this weekend? June 1994, Wheelies premiered. Wheelies was one of the Dorkin videos. Wheelies premiered June 20 something 1994. And it just I need to do a post.
Dude,
I needed to do like a little 30th anniversary to Wheelies.
June
And
is your 43, bro.
kind of
Yeah.
is. And the fact that the four, so like 84, 94, 2004,
Yeah.
nothing really. 2014, I've been getting memories from Dew Tour in Ocean City, Maryland, which I
Yeah.
used to work on. But yeah, it's a but uh, yeah, we had a funded film that was paid for. Now we just can crank away and edit it all day long, all day, all night. But the thing is, we wanted to enter this film in Sundance, and the Sundance deadline for submission was September 14th or something like that.
Right.
And this is June. And like we had heard, I had heard stories from different documentary producers that are like, yeah, it's usually like a 4-month edit or 5-month edit. And I'm like, what? Because we had no idea about that. We were
Right.
used to we were used to cranking things out quickly, or like just cranking content or cranking out edits. And we didn't understand like how much you got to work it and finesse it and really just chip away at it. So we got to the Sundance deadline. We had a film that wasn't what Joe Kid is right now. It was close, but completely different soundtrack, just completely different, just not as strong. And we submitted it to Sundance, so that we could think, okay, we'll just keep working, we'll submit it, keep working on it. This festival's not until January. We should be great. We should be good.
Right.
And so it didn't make it in, but X Dance is another festival that piggybacks on Sundance. It was an action sports festival that piggybacked on the Sundance Film Festival. They
All
would have
right.
it at Sundance, right across the street from the thing. It was so kind of, we were there. We were kind of at Sundance, but we were at X Dance. And
Sure.
Fuel TV would do a whole like a whole show there, like on all the films that came out. So we're like, all right, well that's what we'll do. And then we had a pretty solid edit that we premiered there at X Dance. A lot of people showed up, flew in, like Bob Osborne was there.
Oh, wild.
Um, Bob Osborne, Bright Hop came. Scotty Freeman came in. A couple other people just flew in because they're like, yeah, we want to be there. Our friends from PA all flew in. Family, our family, wives, family, everything came
Yeah.
through. And so yeah, we had this pretty big premiere. It felt like a big deal. We were really trying to get a distribution deal with it, trying so hard to get a distribution deal. And so we kept kind of like chipping away at it. And this is now 2005, and we hadn't really officially released it because we're trying to get a deal. We're trying to get a distribution deal. And distribution deals are great if you've never done a film before and you're like you want that you want to see your film in Best Buy and you want to see it in Walmart and Target, and
Right.
you're like, but we didn't care about that. We wanted to make money. We wanted to like get paid. And uh basically it was like ended up being like we would maybe make $1 a DVD.
Oh,
Like we would
wow.
make $1. It was really, and that's just the nature of a distribution deal. Not that great. So we were struggling with that, and then we finally just said, "Hey, we gotta just premiere this film," because everybody's like, "Where's this film at? Where is it coming out?" We're like, "All right, we'll do it." So we did the Hollywood premiere. We set up a premiere in Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard, or maybe it was Hollywood Boulevard, right? Right. This theater called CineSpace, which is a space for movie premieres, pretty much.
Sure.
It's like a
Sure.
club. And we had this amazing Hollywood premiere of Joe Kid and Stingray. Everybody came out to it. All the people in the film came. Um, a lot. It was just it felt like
So
it
dope,
was the
dude.
it was the pinnacle of what it was the pinnacle of my career at that point. It was just like I remember sitting at the bar. I was sitting at a bar, and I could overlook the room, and I could see everybody in front, like behind. I was behind their heads, and I was drinking. I was having a drink, and I was watching the film play in front of everybody, and I was just like, "Wow, like this is insane!" Like to see all my childhood, like the entire
Dude.
childhood idols in one room watching a movie I made, and it's about BMX. So it's like kind of mind boggling. It was kind of like another one of those cover moments or whatever. Like you just kind of like you can't fathom how you got there. You're just like, what the heck? This is great.
Yeah.
It seemed to really. It was like, yeah, it was a mind blowing thing for me at that point. Um, and kind of just like, and a lot of riders had to leave the thing because they were too tripping. I honestly think RL I think RL was choked up, like, by seeing it. Yeah, there was because these, this is no social media. Nobody's seen each other for 20 years, 15
Right.
years.
Right.
Nobody's seen anybody for 15 years easily. And you're all in one room at once with all this and the film and the whole thing. And you're just like, whoa, like they can't handle some people, yeah, who are like breaking down and
Dude, I
like couldn't
believe
go.
it. Yeah, I think the audience had that feeling too, dude. I mean, because
Yeah,
like I said, you're literally like, that's my, I mean, you're like, that's my Huckleberry. I don't know how to describe it, dude, but like
yeah,
these are your people. You've grown up with them on your posters, on your walls, and like
on your wall.
you feel like you know them because you've read interviews and you've seen them. You've watched like a Scotty Freeman go from being like 10 to like 16, and like we all watched him like just decide I'm not riding the velodrome. I'm fucking done. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we watched that breakdown, and you're like,
Mhm.
it's just such a strange thing. And then to see them
Yeah.
and be like, the kids are all right, they're doing all right. Like,
Yeah.
I think we all watched it like at least 2 or 3 times back to back the first time, because you're like, now I got to watch it again to listen to the story, because the first time you're just like, I remember I'm
It's just,
sitting there
yeah,
hitting
it's
my
just,
wife,
it's,
like
it's
I'm like,
overwhelming.
yeah, I'm like, babe, that's so and so, and this is why it's important to listen to his story. And then we had to watch it again afterwards, because I'm like, now let's watch this. It was so good,
Hmm.
dude, so good.
Yeah. So, I mean, so we basically premiered it and the buzz was huge and it was all over the internet in terms of like blogs and MySpace was coming around. MySpace was happening then. So that was one area where like we were like, okay, let's promote here. Um, um, but we still didn't have a deal. We had this great premiere that just happened. We had all these things. We didn't have a deal. We had no there was the DVD did not exist.
Yeah.
So, we chugged along for another, we chugged along for a while, and then finally towards the end of the year, like around it was right around the Thanksgiving, we
Okay.
were like, listen, we need to make a decision with this. And because Christmas is going to come and we could be selling we could be selling thousands of these for Christmas if we,
Right.
you know what I mean? So we were like,
We
well,
got to
let's
pay
just
Jesse.
distribute, let's just release it. Let's just
Right.
release it. Like, let's put it out ourselves. And so I hurried up and I like made the DVD in terms of like the authoring it, the menus and like figuring out like doing all that. I did that, quit. We were like, all right, we got to get this thing. Yeah, literally, we were at like we were right before we were late November, and we were going to drop this December 13th. We were 2 weeks away from
Dude.
dropping a DVD, and I was like, and a DVD didn't exist. So I was like, let me do, let me whip this up, and that means extras, that means commentary, that means whatever we had on in the DVD. So we hurried that up. I got it done, and then got it off to the like duplicator. And the duplicator had a whole bunch. We didn't have to. We had a way, like we had a fulfillment company that where we could. We had a bunch of. I guess we might have had a bunch of pre-orders at that point. Like
Mhm.
said right then, okay, this film is coming out December 13th. If you want one, order now, right here.
Right.
And then like we got a bunch of orders. We got, I forget how many, like 3,000 right
Oh
off the
my.
bat.
Yeah.
And keep in mind 3,000, and this is now 3,000 at full price.
Right.
We're selling at full price. That destroys, just that alone destroys a distribution deal,
Sure.
because a distribution deal would have meant if we're making $1. So if we're selling 3,000 at $20, $60,000, that would have been 60,000 DVDs sold, which
Right.
probably would have been more than what we would have sold. Because I think in the end, I think we sold around 30,000 of Joe Kid,
Yeah.
somewhere in that ballpark.
Sure.
Um, but we also got Fuel TV, and we also got all these uh, license deals that were like nice big chunks. Like, okay, Fuel's gonna air it for 6 months, just kind of like how Netflix would be, or like
Right.
how Hulu or thing. But it was Fuel. It was
Can you sell it to Netflix? No?
Netflix is an interest. We tried for years to get it into Netflix. We tried for years to get it to Hulu, every platform. I'm not sure if it's dead there. It is an SD. It's not HD film. It might be an issue. But it would be nice if we could get us. It's possible we can get another deal out of it. A friend of mine, my friend Matt Bass, just put out a film called Skate Face, and it's the documentary of skateboarding art. And he literally just got a deal on his, and he's been working on that film for I think 12 years,
Oh my
something
God.
like that, like long time, maybe even
Wow.
15 years. It might even be 15 years. He's been doing it. Yes, he's been working on that film for 15 years. Well,
Jeez.
he started it 15 years ago. So, and
Right.
then literally I just saw he got, but it's SK8 FACE, and it looks really cool. It's all about the history of skateboard art.
That's gonna
But
be dope, dude.
Matt, yeah, but Matt was a filmer friend, and he was a BMX guy, and seeing that he's got some distribution going on. Maybe he can, maybe Joe Kid can get another little distribution bump.
Yeah.
At the same time we were doing Dorkin I'm sorry, at the same time we were doing Joe Kid on Stingray, I was also doing remaking all the Dorkins for the Dorkin DVD box set,
Right.
which was a whole other undertaking, because I went back to, it wasn't a whole lot of existing footage, because we weren't very smart when we shot these things. We just like kind of didn't care about the footage once it was in the video. It was like, okay, it's here. But I went back and I literally recut all 10 videos, like as I remastered them as much as I could
Sure.
for the Dorkin DVD box set, and so that was like a large project as I was doing Joe Kid as well at the same time, and both of those projects were tough because they weren't bringing in money because you're making them to sell, but at the time you're not making money. So
Sure.
it was a struggle, like working, bringing in money, and then working doing these other projects. Um, since I'm talking about Dorkin and Wheelies being its 30th anniversary, um, I'm going to be launching um, the digital download, the digital versions of the Dorkin box set. That'll probably be coming this week or something because like I've sold out all of the
I'll Venmo
DVDs.
you right now. Just tell me how to get you money because I need that. I've been you guys. So the backstory on this is like I had Joe Kid. I lost it when I moved from California to Arizona. So
Oh yeah,
I remember even hitting you up like, hey bro, do you know anywhere that is selling a DVD copy of Joe Kid? And you're like, bro, you can try Amazon, see if you can find it on eBay or Amazon. You're
yeah,
like, I don't have any, but like they're out there in the on the secondary market. And
yeah.
so
I do have some Joe Kids. I think I have some Joe Kid on Stingray DVDs, but the Dorkin
dude,
DVD box set I don't. And so and I've been planning on once the DVD was sold through, people were like, hey, when are you going to do a digital download of it? And I was
yeah.
like, oh, eventually, once the DVDs are gone, and then they can live digitally. And then that way you just have like a quick time of it. And,
Brother,
you
it
do it.
is
And
that is perfect
yeah,
for people like me because I've got kids and I don't own a DVD player. So the only
hmm,
DVD I have
right.
is I have to kick my kids off of PlayStation to
Yeah,
like, hey, dad's gonna watch his movie for a minute and then you can jump back on. So digital download,
yeah,
dude, is where it's at.
yeah, yeah. So that's coming very shortly, probably by the time this podcast hits,
Where would they
it'll
go
be,
for that? Where can
um,
we
I probably have it on plywoodhoods.com. Like
okay.
I have a plywoodhoods.com domain, but there isn't a site on there yet.
Okay.
So I you'll have the we'll have I'll figure out what that link is, what that link's going to be for.
We'll promote it, dude. I'll drop it all
Yeah,
right here. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So and I guess since we're talking about documentaries, let's talk about a documentary that we're going
Dude,
to be
that's
that.
the segue for me was like, okay, 4K, if that's the threshold for Netflix, we have a new thing where you can plan ahead and let's see if we can get this on Netflix. So
Yeah.
tell me what's going on now. What's your next project that you're working on for a documentary?
Okay, so the Ron Wilkerson, Brian Blyther, and Dave Norrie are doing this tour called Back for More in 24, and it's the original Haro team from 1984, and they're doing a 40th anniversary reunion tour.
More fours, dude.
It's
More
got
fours. It's the theme of our
more
talk.
fours. It's gonna be. They're doing 6 stops. The first one's in Seattle, July 27th weekend in Seattle, and apparently there's a lot of people traveling up to that. They're going to be there. You might be there, right?
I'm
Might
trying to get up there, dude. CTAC, it's the CTAC BMX, you guys. If you can get up there, that's where it's gonna be. And you are in for a 40 years in the making, dude. A show 40 years in the making is just incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, keep
So
going, dude.
that's the first stop on the tour, and we're going to Seattle, then we go to like Germany, to the Worlds in Cologne, Germany, and then there's 2 stops in the UK. We go to Paris for Paris for like maybe a day or two, and then from Paris back to New York City. So it's like it goes to New York City on September 7th, um, and there will be some surprise guests at each show. It's not just going to be like Brian, not just going to be Ron and Brian and Dave. It'll probably be I don't even know yet who's going to be there. But from day one of this idea, of this concept of this tour, I was involved in the potential of shooting a documentary. Um, Now, keep in mind, we started talking about this literally 2 summers ago, like July of 22,
Okay.
like talking about it and like
Right.
thinking about it. And because there was going to be a lot of planning involved, et cetera, et cetera. Um, uh, so I was kind of on board for even then, like, okay, let's feel it out. And you know, we had done Zoom calls about it, and it was like, yeah, we were kind of working through it.
Just
So,
getting Wilkerson on a Zoom call in itself, you guys,
yeah,
that's
yeah, and I think even like we had a bunch of people on the Zoom. I think Spike Jones was on the Zoom.
dude, that's
Um,
incredible.
there was like we had a bunch of people. I'm pretty sure like it was a whole thing. Because like we were all kind of brainstorming. It was a full on brainstorming session, and and kind of planning it out and what could it be and all these things. So um then I kind of just laid back and well, I was like, okay, we'll see if the tour happens, what's going to happen with it. And then like literally like maybe at the most a month ago, maybe 2 months ago at the most, when they solidified we're doing 6 dates, um, I hit a Vinny who's like sort of kind of help, like he's kind of booking the tour, he's kind of helping with that. And I was like, hey, just so you know, I'm interested in making this documentary. And then they were like, oh, you know, it was almost like they forgot, and they're
Right.
like, oh wait, really? I go, yeah. And you know what, the documentary is going to help make the tour, it's going to help uh just provide more just hype in a sense about it too.
100% it will.
So
Yeah.
so just a fact. So and what I wanted to do was, so I want to just, I'm gonna just be like almost like a fly on the wall and film as much as I can of what's going on. And I fortunately I have a ton of kind of reality shooting experience and documentary um and so I kind of know what how this is going to work, how to do this, how to manage it, how to get something interesting out of this.
Right.
And so yeah, we're the final film is probably going to be like we keep throwing 43s in it. So the final film, right as of right now, if you pre-order the film, if you are an early adopter, early investor, so to speak, if you buy the film before July 27th, 7/27, if you pay $43 for the film, you are
Keep
you
going.
are a you are a official film contributor. You'll get credited in the, you know, you'll be in the credits of the film. And
Yeah.
like, thanks for our you know, special contributors that really made this, help make this happen. Because a lot of it's almost all it's almost all GoFundMe, like crowdfunded. And so I mean, I'm just like sort of on board to do it, like to give them the bro deal on the film, but it's like a passion project for me as well. So like I want to see, make sure that the story is really good, and that you're just like, I want, yeah, I want people to, when they walk away from the thing, to be like, wow, that's really cool. I wish I was there. I wish I was a part of it. So it's really for the people that aren't able to go, aren't able to
Yeah.
be there, but it's like you're just kind of like, oh, that looks really fun. That looks like, you know what? That's the same vibe we all got from when we looked at the magazines, that when the magazines that came out in September, they would have the tour. They would have
Yep.
the tour like stories, and you'd see the photos from the tours, and you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, that looks so fun! That
It
looks
was
like
the
so much
best.
fun."
It was the
So
best, dude. Yeah. I mean,
that's good. It's gonna be that in, it's gonna be that in a video form,
I
and yeah.
I think for me, dude, here, okay, so there's a couple things. When it comes to summer tours, I was blessed enough that I got to see Haro early,
Mhm.
up in NorCal. I got to see who did I saw Woody and Mike, but it was on their Diamondback era, not the Trickstar era. So it's like
Yeah.
super dope, but like, and the bummer about that one, dude, that the tour, their stop, the like the flatland area was like an inclined parking lot. And
Yeah.
so there was no flatland really at all. And then obviously like the ramp would be oververt. So it wasn't great, but like I saw it and I was there. I have a very vivid memory of Woody's bike, and just being like, that's
Hmm.
the bike I've seen. Um,
Yeah.
but not everybody has those moments, dude. I saw CW, I saw Haro, and then I remember a dude moved to my town from Mandan, North Dakota, or Minot, North Dakota, and he had a VHS copy of the Dino Tour with Dino DeLuca, and he had the most precious spot in the crowd where he could hit both. Like he just had perfect viewing
Uh,
angle. The music, I remember the music, like it was like money for nothing. The minute he just took off, it was just like money for nothing at the guitar riff.
uh,
And
yeah.
you're just like, dude, I had no idea Dino
Yeah.
DeLuca was that good until I saw that, right? So
Hmm.
there's so many of us who grew up and didn't get to go to a tour or didn't get to see Haro, and to have you, like, honestly, when I found out you're doing a documentary on it, even though I knew about Back for More, for me it was just kind of a nice thing. It would be like, that's a cool thing that might happen. But for some reason,
Yeah.
for me, the documentary made it real versus this is just something that they're trying to do, that it's going to be a, like, I didn't buy it. I'll just be real upfront. I didn't buy a ticket to the July spot until I heard there's a documentary. Then I was like, okay, because I thought it would just be like a bunch of dudes show up in a parking lot, which is dope, but that's a hard sell for me to go. I'm gonna fly from Arizona to SeaTac.
Yeah. I didn't know. I wasn't sure. For some reason, I was thinking you were in Oregon. I was thinking you were in Portland or
Yeah,
where, or
I'm in
yeah, you're in
Phoenix. Yeah,
Arizona.
I'm
Oh,
in
okay.
Phoenix, and
Okay.
so
Yeah. Then, yeah, that makes sense then. Yes. Okay. I get that. Yeah.
so
Because
so for
you were
me,
like,
is it
yeah,
just a hangout? Is it are they taking it real seriously? And then I was like, okay, and I'll be honest, like I don't follow it enough to where I'm like, I'll see Fact and Freestyle has a stand-in for Dave Norrie, or there's like stunt doubles going on. So I'm like,
yeah.
am I gonna fly to Seattle and am I just gonna watch Ricky in a Dave Norrie outfit? I don't know what's happening. I don't understand it. And so
Yeah.
for me, dude, when I was like, okay, Lung Mustard's doing Mark's doing a documentary. Okay, it's a real thing.
So, yeah, I mean, that's my whole goal is to make it come to life and make it legit and just, get a really cool, get a good a film out of it. Let's go back
Yeah,
when I said about how 85, when we were just getting back into it and Kevin was back into it, and we're now like, okay, we went to the horror show in Rockville, and were blown away, completely blown away by Ron, Brian, and Dave. Like, we were like, oh my gosh, it was, it was mind blowing. That's when we were legit like, okay, like we are back into freestyle, no
yeah,
doubt. We are,
yeah.
so
The
that
Holy
would have been
Stoke
probably, and
shows
that would
up.
have been like, yeah, that would have been like a July of '85 that we were there, and it was just
Right.
like, wow, like it was massive. And we knew of Rockville. We knew because we had been to a BMX action show. I'd been to Rockville. We're very familiar. There was all these big shows there,
Yeah.
but seeing that horror show was like, I mean, there had to been 600 people there.
At Rockville,
Like, there had to
easily.
be,
Yeah.
had to been. It was a lot. It was a
Rockville
lot of
was the
people.
place. And what do you think is what are you most excited about looking at this tour moving forward? Like, what for, as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, what is the hook for you for this Back for More section of like a
Yeah.
bunch of guys doing
Yeah.
it again?
Well, the it's kind there is a lot of unknown. So there is a lot of kind of I'm kind of going in like, all right, let's go. Like, I'm not I can't plan too much, because in a documentary you kind of just, you find the story, you find it just kind of, you kind of have an idea of where you want to go. Just like in Joe Kid, we had an idea of what we wanted to say, but that wasn't what at the end of
Turned
the,
out.
like, it completely changed. This, I have an idea of what it's going to be, but I don't know who all we're going to see along this tour, who we're going to talk to, um, what what's going to happen at the shows. Is anybody going to get injured? Is any, like, just, what, who knows what's going to happen? So
Right.
it's going to just be like, I'm just going to try to make the best kind of film I can out of being with them. And
Dude.
I guess there's a part of me that really always wanted to go on tour. You
Right.
know what I mean? And go on tour with
We all
with the
thought
Haro
about it,
team.
dude. Everyone's thought of
And
it.
so not that we're like really so um the first stop in Seattle is like basically a month before we go to Europe. But so we'll do the stop in Europe. We'll do the stop in Seattle. That'll give us a little bit of a like a it's almost like a test run, but at the same time, it lets us kind of work out kinks, or at least go, okay, like this is let's make this part better, and then we go boom, 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 and then we do the rest of them. But
Right.
yeah, but I have a yeah, August. So like going into that, and then August is super busy for me because I have that, and then I have a whole bunch of DJ stuff going on that month.
Right.
But and that's kind of like where that's my passion at the moment. Like, I mean, filmmaking is my sort of day job,
Right.
and DJing is my passion because DJing is one of those things that's very hard to. I guess I'm trying to push it. Like I'm just like everything else I've done. I'm trying to push it as far as I can. And so I'm putting all this effort into mixing and like just developing cool mixes and just being an overall great DJ. I'm trying, that's
Yeah.
my whole goal. And like, so I said, like August, I've got content, I've got battles, and I've got showcases and things like that that play. But yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
So I'm not really getting anywhere with it, and that's the hard part. That's the like the struggle of it.
Right.
So it's not like it doesn't come easy. It's not like, oh yeah, like you're gonna DJ and then all of a sudden you get handed like these great gigs or whatever. No, that doesn't happen. You gotta like you gotta grind and grind and grind and grind, and I pretty much am. I have been grinding for
Right.
a long time. And once when in 2020 when the pandemic start happened, I used it as a perfect place to just start streaming. Start
Right.
because I was streaming before it, like for fun. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna pop. I'm gonna do a live stream and DJ set, do mix. I was doing that a lot from like literally from like 2014 on up to through, occasionally, maybe like
Right.
once, twice a month, something like that. And then when the pandemic happened, and pretty much that was the place for DJs to go is online street live stream. I had already had a Twitch account, so Twitch was the platform because Twitch did not kick you. Twitch wouldn't boot you off for playing copyrighted music.
Right.
They just
That's
let
how I
you
found
play,
you.
and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and that's why Twitch took off for DJs is because they all the other platforms were like, nah, they'll cut the stream if they detect copyrighted music or something. Like Facebook Live, no cut, and
That's how I
Instagram
found
Live.
you. Yeah, it was a Facebook
Yep,
Live that got shut down, and you're like, I think you were
I'm
just
at
like,
Twitch.
go to Twitch.
Yeah,
So I literally, I think I
yep.
took I was so, it was so lame, dude. I took a screenshot to grab like the QR code for Twitch to then like
Hmm.
get in there, find you
Yeah,
on Twitch, dude. And then I was like, oh, this is dope, dude.
yeah. And I
Journey.
just whip it all up. I just whip it up, put it all, I blend it all up so it all goes,
Yeah,
into each other, and it's that's my whole thing.
it's
It's like,
amazing. Where
yeah.
can we find you on there? Like, shout out all your socials for your DJ stuff.
So my socials for like my Twitch handle is twitch.tv DJ underscore Eaton,
Okay.
and my DJ underscore Eaton on TikTok. I've been streaming on TikTok. That's a fun thing because there's just like a lot of people come through.
Yeah.
And then obviously Mark00 Eaton on everything.
Instagram.
So
Yeah. Okay.
if you do a DJ underscore Eaton, you'll find me kind of everywhere. Like that's an easy go to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your right now, like before you get crazy with the traveling, you're DJing, I think was it every it's a couple nights, right?
Tuesday, like literally I cut back a little bit because I've got other things, because of just other things working. But every Tuesday, definitely every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, I'm on this raid train, which is
Yep.
kind of like a Twitch festival where one goes into the next, goes into the next. So like you'll have your stream with your people, and then like 7 p.m. comes, and all right, we're on to the next guy, and you hit this button, and it takes your stream, dumps it into the next guy. So
Got
now
it.
this guy has, if you have 40, 50 people in your stream, now everybody goes to the next guy. All right, hey, welcome in everybody, let's go. And then boom.
I'll literally just put it on while I'm riding and
Yeah.
listen to like a giant mix, dude. And that's my soundtrack for my ride and all that. So you guys
Yeah,
definitely,
on my Mixcloud. Okay, on mixcloud.com. Mixcloud is a platform like SoundCloud.
yeah.
It's called Mixcloud. Look up DJ Eaton Mixcloud.
Okay.
And yeah.
I'll put it up on screen, you guys. You can follow along, bookmark it, follow in there. You are if you are of our age, which I'm assuming you are if you're watching this podcast, you are anywhere from that 30 to 50-year-old. You're gonna know every song that Mark plays, and you're gonna hear it in a very different way. And you're gonna have a blast. You're just gonna be mind blown. You'll go. It's the only place you can go from Debbie Deb to Depeche Mode and not feel like it's weird. It's just a trip, man. You guys will have a blast. So, bro,
Yeah.
good luck with the tour. Good luck with the
Thank you.
movie. If you need the community to get behind you and start a campaign to like hound Netflix, say the word. We have a lot of
Yeah.
BMXers that know how to send emails, and we're super good about that. We want to see BMX. We want to see our people on Netflix. I want to see that happen.
Yeah.
So, anything we can do to enable this, you guys, right now, I'm going to put on the screen all the links for everything that we have. Take a screenshot so that you can go and find Mark everywhere. You can go and find the Plywood Hoods. It's plywoodhoods.com where we're going to put
Yeah.
the
That'll
buy-ins
be
and all that.
that'll eventually be the landing page for the digital downloads. But
Okay.
yeah.
Back for more. So
I
the
yeah.
back for more early, like where can we buy in on that? Where do we get our
Okay,
credit?
BFM, BFM dot, or I'm sorry, BFM24.com, back for more 24.com. BFM24.com is the website, and there's a GoFundMe page there. If you put in the amount of 40, well, before July 27th, or even on July 27th, I think you can. But if you donate $43, you will get the film, and you will get your name as a credit, as a supporter.
All right.
Yeah.
So where's I'm looking for where
Okay.
events
Yeah. Look for it should be like a GoFundMe link in there.
contribute to share and get your copy
Yeah.
right here, right in the
Yeah.
front, you
Yeah.
guys. Right
Yeah.
there. Click that. You're right to the
Yeah.
GoFundMe.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And that basically that money goes towards the tour, and getting the documentary made for the tour too.
43. How do I put 40? Can I do cents?
Yeah, why not? 43.
43 point. Let me see if I get 40. It won't, dude. All right.
Okay, it just has, yeah, just do your 43, and
When I
you're
show
doing it
up,
live. Do it live.
yeah, when I show up, dude, here's the deal. What's going to happen? I'm going to give you 43 cents so that it makes it funnier.
Yes, yes.
We'll cap off the joke in
Yeah,
July.
I'll get it on. I'll get it on camera. We'll get it on camera too.
Brother, thank you so much for your time. Thank you
Yeah.
for, I got to say this, dude. Thank you for your contribution to BMX in general, dude. I was gonna say
Hey,
flatland
you
and
want
freestyle, but dude, it's everything. Thank you for the stoke that I hope one day, and this is a fairy tale thing, but like I hope one day you get to heaven and God gets to show you how many flatlanders you influenced and
yeah,
how big of an influence you were in everyone's lives. You, Brett, Mike, Kevin, everybody that played a role that stoked you to stoke us. Just thank you for all of that, dude. Thank you for the hours of daisy chained VCRs making videos for us for 10 fucking bucks, bro. Um,
hmm
there's just all of that. And then thank you for the music that like I'm able to just open up an app on my phone and listen to music and find that, dude. There's so many aspects of a freestyler, a BMXer's life that, dude, you still carry that joy and bring so much happiness to us all. It just never gets old, dude. So thank you for all of that. Please, next time you talk to the fellas, dude, pass that along. I hope you're all reminded of like your contribution that was so huge. And freestyle wouldn't be what it was if you guys didn't push yourselves and decide that like we're all going to do some windmills, and if you can do some windmills, you'll eventually be a famous BMXer. That's pretty rad, dude. What a cool story. So thank
Yeah.
you for all of that, dude.